Good evening and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, and the time is now 6 p.m. We will now turn to the city clerk for roll call.
Mayor Shelton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hay,
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Turkin,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Tammy. We are now moving on to the agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections. Let's begin to the left with Commissioner Turkin. If you have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
Nope.
Commissioner Kelly,
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor Hay,
No.
Commissioner Cruz.
Not for me, thank you.
Good. If there's nothing else, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
A second, okay. All those opposed say, oh no, all those in favor to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Does anybody have any, where are we? That just jumped. Look.
It's not on this agenda, so they're going to just do the joint meeting, and then that'll adjourn, and you'll go into your regular CRA meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
You called the meeting, so do
Yes,
you want to
yeah, I'll
start
kick
it?
it off. Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Thank you, staff, city, CRA. I wanted to call this special meeting to have a conversation about the current situation in Tallahassee with the CRA, and like to start off with Ms. Rosmel, if you can kind of go over and give a short overview about what's going on in Tallahassee with this bill, the potential future of the CRA, what could happen, what couldn't happen, and then I'll jump into it.
Sure. Catherine Rossmel with Lewis, Longman, and Walker here on behalf of the CRA. And just for clarity, this proceeding is both the City Council and the CRA sitting together. So with that in mind, I'll just give you a brief summary. There are two bills currently in the legislature that are moving forward that can affect the future of the CRA. One is House Bill 991. The other is Senate Bill 1242. And both of them are very similar. There's one notable difference, but they propose to do a number of things that would affect CRAs generally. They would prevent new CRAs from being created. They would sunset existing CRAs no later than 2045, and it would curtail some of the activities that CRAs can engage in. This particular CRA here in Boynton Beach is already going to sunset in 2044, so that provision doesn't really affect the CRA. We obviously already exist, so ban on creation of new CRAs, not particularly problematic for us. However, there is a provision that, if passed, would prevent CRAs from initiating new projects if they are not started by October of this year. So there's a slight difference in the House and the Senate bills on that language. The House bill specifies that a new project is something that is not in the budget for the existing CRA in the fiscal year ending October 2025. The Senate bill does prevent CRAs from initiating new projects, but doesn't describe new projects as only those budgeted line items. So the bill is much more of a priority in the House than in the Senate at this point. It's traveling more smoothly through the House. The House has stated that it is a priority, but this House also has an unusually large number of priorities this year, and it's not been made clear where this falls on that list. In the House, the last committee it's set to go before is the Commerce Committee. They're going to meet in weeks 7 and 8. We're currently in week 6. The Senate has the last meeting of the committees, there was a lot more concern expressed with the bill, and Senator Pasadomo, who's chair of the Rules Committee, has taken a vocal interest in this bill. As you all are aware, the CRA has hired a lobbyist from my firm on this effort. The city also has a lobbyist. The FRA has a lobbyist. The League of Cities has a lobbyist, and several other CRAs also have a lobbyist. They are all coordinating as a block to respond to the potential legislation, and the current position of the block is working to advance a version of the bill that was originally drafted by the FRA. This is similar to the Senate bill, except that it removes the prohibition on initiation of new projects and replaces it with a provision that would prevent CRAs from engaging in event-type activities, festivals, events, that kind of thing. So the current efforts are moving there. There's interest in moving it in that direction. We understand both from the electeds and from the lobbyists, and so that is sort of where that's being leveraged, but that's where it is right now. To be clear, if this bill does pass, the CRA does not dissolve in October. I know that there's been a lot of writing on that front. That's not how it's currently set. It's just that there would be a prohibition on undertaking new projects. So with that, that's kind of a summary of what's happening and where we are. I'm happy to answer any other questions to the best that I can, and if I need to try to get a hold of our lobbyist, I can do that too.
Perfect, thank you, Catherine. So I'm hopeful that this bill gets amended before it's finally passed, or maybe it doesn't pass. But in the case that it does pass as it's written now, I think it's crucial for this body to identify a few projects in our CRA plan and our strategic plan that overlap, that we can utilize the CRA and the city's joint partnership to accomplish. A strategic plan, a CRA plan are great, right? But if they sit on the shelf and we don't take action, they're useless. And so I want to make sure that we're working collaboratively to get that done. In the CRA plan, it talks about affordable housing, talks about infrastructure, talks about, the waterfront quite a bit. In our goals and principles, page 32, 33, it mentions the waterfront, preserving the marine industry, the marina, allowing for public access to the water, and identifying new opportunities to produce waterfront access 3 to 4 times, more than it talks about affordable housing in those goals and principles. Recently, over the last 5-10 years, we've seen a lot of allocation of TIF dollars to high-density housing, and I think it's time for this body to take a shift and focus on commercial development, which doesn't produce the same amount of problems that people create. Right? We have over 2,000 apartments that were approved that are coming into, just this 1 square mile around City Hall, right? That's about another 13,000, gallons worth of, 13 tons worth of trash. That's 2,000 more trips daily, 10 to 15% increase in calls for service for our police and firefighters. The city bears the responsibility of budgeting and producing those calls for service. And as we know, the CRA is hand-tied on what they can and can't do, as we've seen what's going on with Tallahassee now. And so, I'm asking my colleagues to, look at a couple things. Look at, our CRA plan altogether, removing the MU core, MU high density in the plan. That way, long after we're gone, we can make an impact. There's a lot of things that have happened, live local, preemptions by the state that we can't control, right? We can't fix the past, we can't change the past, but what we can do is shape the future. And I think it's crucial that this city has an identity, similar to what Boca has in Meisner Park, Delray has in Atlantic Avenue, to create a place for people to get off I-95 to come to Boynton Beach. Why do you get off I-95 to Boynton Beach? I think that we have overlooked our number one asset, which is the waterfront. And, optimizing that we're the closest to the Gulf Stream on the whole eastern seaboard. This has been a fishing community for as long as it's been around, and I think we've missed the opportunity to really activate and, double down on promoting that and producing some form of destination tourism, which is also part of our CRA plan, along with destination commercial. And so what I'm asking, is we identify where we could potentially have, more waterfront access between the CRA and the city, whether that's a marina, activating some form of waterfront, identifying public or private parcels that we could look at to achieve this, and then also a hotel. We have a lot of 55-plus communities, not just west of 95, but east of I-95. And I think it's crucial that we provide whatever incentives that we can to bring a hotel to the east side of Boynton Beach, right? We have the Nova Inn, which is under construction, formerly the Homing Inn. We have, the grand old Boynton Beach Inn on I-95, 3 stars, right? And so I think it's crucial that we provide, or at least work towards and partner to produce a better product for our residents, better product for the city, and a better product for the local economy. And so I'd like to hear from my colleagues, what you guys think about this, because I think it's important that we start this conversation now with worst case scenario, the CRA, potentially not being able to fund projects after October 1, right? That's why I wanted to call this meeting immediately, get this process started, because I don't want, time to pass, we not prioritize this, and we miss an opportunity to focus on, what's written in our own strategic plan and our CRA plan. So, my proposal is to have staff and CRA work on these initiatives and identify these projects at some level where they're in writing legally, so that we can utilize the funding if, worst case scenario happens in Tallahassee with this bill moving forward. So.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Mayor.
Board Member Kelly?
Catherine, do we know, I haven't seen what the FRA is proposing. I haven't been able to track anything down. I checked their website, I checked all the emails that I've received from them. What is your feeling, or what are your thoughts on, because I know you and I have talked about this also, moving forward as far as, do we just need to budget and have a budget line item to preserve our ability to initiate a project or do a project? Because that's something that's very unclear when you look at these bills, is what does it mean when you say new? Because we have a grocery store on our budget, a proposed grocery store, money set aside for a proposed parking garage. And we have all these monies that are allocated, that we've been allocating every year for different projects. And I just want to make sure that we are doing it right. And I know that at this point, we're probably still too early to know exactly how we're doing it right. But I just wanted to get your input and what your thoughts are from dealing with the FRA on what they're proposing and what they're, how they're explaining it to the CRAs as far as preserving our abilities to do what we do.
Sure. So it's almost two different questions, so I'm going to treat it that way. The FRA bill removes this language about not initiating new projects. So if their bill goes forward, then that's simply not a concern. The main impact to the CRA in that case would be it would remove the CRA's ability to work on events, essentially festivals, that kind of thing, which is something that our CRA participates in. But that would be the primary impact on us. If this FRA bill does not go through and some form of the bill goes through that puts a damper on initiating new projects or debt, it's going to depend a bit on the language. And you hit the nail on the head when you said that it's probably a little bit early to tell. But I can kind of game it out for you based on the two existing forms. So under the House bill, it actually defines new project, and it says any project for which there is no appropriation in the Community Redevelopment Agency budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, or which we have not retained appropriated funds under some. So for our existing contracts, our existing TIF agreements, those types of things, those are untouched. Those remain, and we have a contractual obligation to continue those. Those will not be impacted. What it might impact is our ability to certainly to take on anything that's new that we haven't done before, no new grants, anything like that, or new forms of grants. Typically we as the CRA have a fairly broad buffet of methods that we can use to achieve our ends, and so this would limit that to some degree. What is not entirely clear about that definition is how broad a budget could be made to cover existing sets of activities. CRAs in general are talking about what that would look like, and it would probably look something like simplifying your budget and being a little bit less specific to allow your existing initiatives that you all intend to keep to move forward. Certainly, if there were specific line items that we wanted to include in a budget, we could do a budget amendment to make sure that there's an appropriation that exists. But it is a little bit the language is a little bit uncomfortable with how the budgeting process actually happens, and so that's not abnormal with legislation. Not everything is clearly drafted, but that is where it stands. On the other hand, if the Senate bill moves forward and it doesn't have this budget language, then that gives the CRA a much cleaner path in that the CRA could take legislative or quasi-legislative action to announce what its existing projects are, to set that forth, and then we could work under those umbrellas moving forward. As I read the legislation as it exists now, if this goes through, there will be gray areas, and so our goal would be to set you up to do the maximum that you would be allowed to do, and then as it gets narrowed by attorney general opinions or lawsuits or bad actors or whatever, we would try to adjust. So that would, I assume, be the goal moving forward, subject, of course, to your direction. So just to kind of recap, if the FRA bill goes through, we don't worry about adjusting the budgets or the project list. If the FRA bill does not go through and a bill is passed that contains this kind of limiting language, then we hustle for the next 2 months to put in place what look to us to be the most appropriate measures at the time to make the CRA be effective, because it will continue to exist and it will continue to collect funding, including from the county, until it sunsets. And so the assumption would be that the taxpayer money should go back to work. So we would take it from that stance.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, I thank you, Commissioner Turkin, for calling this joint meeting. I think it is very important that we start having this conversation about, and I've spoken to Tim about this, I've spoken to city staff about really being a little bit more collaborative in how we speak. And I know that there's a clear, definition as far as Florida statute on, separating out CRAs, but at the same time, I feel like we really could be a lot more collaborative in how we work with the city. And so I would like to see more collaboration on how we can help each other, because at the end of the day, and I've said this a ton of times, at the end of the day, they don't look at whose logo is on the shirt. Everything that we do as a city and a CRA is the city. And so anything the CRA does represents the city, and anything the city does represents the city. So I think it's very important that everything that any body of the city is doing it in a collaborative way, where we're all working together to make sure that we all look good and that we are all providing our residents with everything that we can to for their enjoyment of life, for our enjoyment of life, for peace and all that stuff. So so I am all for working together to come up with projects that and focusing on the marina. I have said it at meetings before that I think we are not focusing enough on federal highway and looking at businesses that are available and properties for sale along federal highway, and that to really look at our federal highway corridor and marina district and really focus on projects that that the city and the CRA can collaborate. So I am all for that. I think if we we have, I feel like we have development projects under our belt, and now we can really focus on what the fun things that people can then enjoy when they come here. So I think that's a great opportunity for us to look at this budget and really focus on projects and work together as a CRA and a city. And so if that means that we call more of these joint meetings so that we can have these discussions on moving the city forward, I'm in full support of that. So thank you.
Chairmember Hay, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a lot has already been said, but, we have a very successful CRA, and we have a lot of projects going on. And so I'm wondering, and since you said, Kathy, that the wording is still being massaged, I was just wondering, have you talked to, or will you talk to someone to ask whether or not there will be exceptions or waivers available for CRAs with proven success and community support?
As far as, so there have been discussions that have been had regarding the best way to sort of weed out the CRAs that have not acted in accordance with their mandate and the CRAs who have done a good job. There has been no consensus reached on what that language would look like and what the standard for that would be. So there is no current proposal for that that's being workshopped that I'm aware of, other than, like I said, that I know those discussions are being had. I can look into that further and get back to you, but amongst the block of CRAs that are working together as a lobbying effort, I don't think that there's any particular sentence or clause that's being advanced for that purpose, and no other particular waiver in play right now.
Okay, thank you. On Senate Bill 1224, has there been any input from the medical, the emergency medical professionals or the hospital systems or community health boards about the potential benefits or risks?
As far as I know, the medical community is not involved in this bill in a particular way. I'm not sure if there's a particular interest there that I'm not aware of, but I have not heard a word about that. The League of Cities is involved and is taking the same position that we are, and the Florida Redevelopment Agency, but that's it as far as other organized groups, as far as I'm aware.
League of Cities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Board Member Cruz?
Thank you. I would say it's, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think it's a positive conversation to start planning ahead and being proactive. As we know, we have to wait a few months more for it to be finalized, but I do support, having potential lists of things that we can prioritize, our projects, or things of that nature. I think it's always good to be proactive. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question? Catherine, you mentioned when House Bill 991 was up in week 7, week 8. When is the next, I know it's before the Senate Bill 1242 is before the Rules Committee. Do you know when they meet?
They meet right up until the end, and I was speaking with Chris earlier today, so session ends at the very beginning of May 2nd, and it could go right up till the end. They're one of the last to meet. Rules and Appropriations are among the last to meet, so we would know before the May CRA meeting, but in terms of an actual date, it's not available.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. No, I appreciate the support. And again, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I definitely don't want to miss the boat, no pun intended. And, I think it's important to get ahead of this. And so, just to be clear, I would like to direct staff and CRA to work together, identify sites, identify funding mechanisms, to identify these projects and, hopefully propose a budget amendment if we need to, and where they overlap between the strategic plan and the CRA plan, starting with marina, labeled in both, hotel, labeled in both, and also destination commercial. I think that's, again, like I mentioned earlier, that should be the focus, right? And so, we have the ability with TIF, we have the ability of land acquisition with the CRA, we have the ability of bonds as well. And so I think we need to have a measurable plan. I'd like to do this again in a month, like Commissioner Kelly had mentioned, come back, see what we have, so that we're holding ourselves accountable, CRA's holding themselves accountable, cities holding themselves accountable. So this just isn't lip service. We're actually getting things done and identifying what we can do. Obviously, things could change. Bill could be amended. We don't have to move as quick. But if everyone's okay with that, that's my clarification.
I'm good. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, if not, we may have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Sorry, if I just may clarify for the benefit. We can take by consensus your directions for CRA and staff. I can just get everyone to agree that we will work together towards that front, and we'll present to you at our respective May meetings, or if another joint meeting is called, the results of that collaboration and the current status of the legislation. Is that correct?
Correct.
Everyone's nodding? Okay.
Correct.
Right, I got enough head nods. Thank you.
Yes, thank
Is
you.
there any questions about anything that I can clarify about what we're looking for? No? Okay.
No, we're clear. Thank you.
And just, yeah.
And then, yeah, I think, I look forward to this collaboration. I think it's good, it's new. And, I know there's a lot of stuff. You guys are neighbors right across the street on the fourth floor. But I think having these joint meetings and having that accountability piece is huge. We've been without a permanent CRA director for, over a year now. And so I look forward to this continued collaboration, however that may look. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
And I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Turkin moved to adjourn the meeting. Board Member Turkin moved to adjourn the meeting, and Board Member Kelly second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay.
And then just clarify, we're going to take a 5-minute.
Yes. So we are going to take a 5-minute break before we begin the next, the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, so we can change out our staff. So just be patient with us for a few moments. not to any particular individual on the dais or in the audience. Personal attacks and insults are strictly prohibited. Disruptive behaviors are likewise strictly prohibited. If you violate these rules, you will be asked to leave these chambers. Let's proceed to the invocation led by Board Member Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Board Member Kelly. Let's stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you this afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. We come before you with grateful hearts as we gather for this Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting in Boynton Beach. During this Easter season, we are reminded of the themes of renewal and hope that the resurrection of your Son, Jesus Christ, brings to all. We seek your wisdom and guidance for our city leaders, our staff, and all those under the sound of my voice this evening. Grant us clarity of mind and unity of purpose as we deliver on matters that affect our community. May our decisions reflect justice, compassion, and a commitment to the well-being of all of our residents. Lord, as spring brings new life around us, inspire us to work together to revitalize our neighborhoods and foster an environment where businesses and families can thrive. Help us to be mindful students. Help us to be mindful stewards of the resources and the opportunities you have entrusted to us. Bless this meeting with your presence. And may our efforts this evening contribute to the flourishing of Boynton Beach. We ask this in the name of Jesus the Christ. We do pray and ask it all. Let every heart say, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Let me turn to our Deputy Clerk, Tammy Stanzioni. If you could please begin the roll call.
Chair Shelton,
Present.
Vice Chair Hay,
Present.
Board Member Cruz,
Here.
Board Member Turkin,
Present.
Board Member Kelly.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We are now moving on to additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda. Let's begin to my left. Board Member Turkin, are there any additions, deletions, corrections you'd like to make to the agenda as published?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to move up 14A and 14D to after announcements and awards.
Okay.
And nothing besides that.
Pardon me?
14.
Board Member Kelly?
No, that's fine.
Board Member Hay?
No, I have none.
And Board Member Cruz?
Not for me. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Question,
Yes.
where are we going to move 14A and 2?
After 9. Right, Board Member Turkin, that's what you had asked for.
Yeah, 14A, 14D after 9.
After 9?
Yeah, there's no announcements or awards.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I don't want to add anything. Do we want to specify if we want to hear any projects at 16, or I don't have any that I necessarily want to request.
Are you talking about for the information?
For 16, yeah.
16, yeah.
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
I saw the block up over at Cottage District.
Okay. So now may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thought we did that already.
Wait, did
Yeah,
we get a
just
second?
call,
Okay.
yeah.
Just call a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Now let's turn to legal counsel. Are there any updates?
Unless this board has additional questions related on the House or Senate bill, then I have no further legal comments. Catherine Rossmell, Lewis, Longman, and Walker. Thank you.
One question.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
know when the next vote is going to take place?
No, sir, it's not set on the committee agenda yet for either. In the Senate committee, Rules Committee, they meet up until the end, so it could be called anytime really before May 2nd. In the House, it's either likely going to go forward either next week or the week after, but it's not set on the agenda yet.
Catherine, when it gets set on the agenda, can you let us know on both? Because I know there's usually advance notice, it's posted.
Yes.
If you could let us know, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And also, have you spoken with lobbyists?
So I personally have not spoken with the city lobbyist. However, Chris Lyon, who is the lobbyist from my firm that we engage for this, has been coordinating with your city lobbyists on this effort, and they are working in tandem.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Now let's begin informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA. Let's begin on my left. Board Member Turkin, do you have any informational items or disclosures on items on the agenda?
I did speak with Kim Kelly about 14A. I spoke with Jeffrey Burns regarding 14D, and I did speak with Bonnie Miskell regarding 14C. And also received a plethora of emails regarding 14C as well.
Board Member Kelly?
Thank you, Board Chair. I also spoke to Kim Kelly and Jeff Burns Kim Kelly regarding 14A, Jeff Burns regarding 14D, and I spoke with Bonnie Miskell and Rob Singer regarding 14C. I also received emails and spoke to residents with regard to 14C. And my only other thing is I just wanted to thank staff for a great spring market. I think it was very successful. It was a fun time. I couldn't drag my daughter away, so we had a blast. It was a good time. So thank you to our staff. They always knock I don't want to call it an event. It's a economic driver spring market. So thank you.
Board Member Cruz?
I received a voicemail from Jeff Burns regarding item 14D, and I got many emails about item 14C, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Board Member Hay?
I did attend the market, and it was great. And I also talked with Jeff Burns and Bonnie Miskell and received several emails about item 14B.
I too spoke to Bonnie Miskell, Jeff Burns, Kim Kelly last week, received many emails and many phone calls regarding 14C. Okay, thank you. Now let's begin information only. Are there any information only items my colleagues would like to discuss?
Well, in this, we go through each one.
Okay.
This is different than 16,
Okay.
so I think Tim Tuck gives us a progress report on each one.
Tim?
You can choose to hear them if you'd like or not. So if you'd like to hear any specific one, we can open that up. Or if you would prefer to, it's the board's choice. It's for information only. There's no motion or action that's required.
Fine.
I'm fine.
Okay, so no items to discuss. Thank you. Let's now begin announcements and awards, but we don't have any. So seeing no announcements, awards, let's move on to the next portion, which would be 14A and 14D, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
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 All right, Tim Tack, Acting Executive Director for the CRA. 14A, this is for discussion consideration of the lease amendment between the CRA and Cafe Barista, doing business as
We need to
Hurricane.
remove from the table.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
So motion to
Second.
remove from the table.
Second.
Okay, so we have, all in favor, say aye.
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 So we have a motion passes unanimously to untable.
Yep. Good.
Okay, so The CRA purchased the properties located at 511, 515, and 529 East Ocean Avenue back in December of '21. At the time of closing, Cafe Barista, doing business as Hurricane Alley, was a tenant with an active lease, which was assigned to the CRA. The most recent lease extension expired on March 1st. They have requested a one-year lease extension to extend out to March 1st, 2026, under the same terms and conditions of the current lease. BBQOZ LLC has provided with the request for an extension and has approved that request as the future owner. Due to the condition of the building and costs associated with ongoing maintenance, the CRA board may elect to increase the rent, which has been proposed. That's what it would look like at 3 or 4 or 5%. We have provided a attached draft lease extension based on Hurricane Alley's request and the increase of with the sales tax as reflected for your approval. I believe Kim Kelly may be here or online, so if you have any questions.
Chair, I just have a question for staff. Tim, has there been any, in the last year, have there been any significant maintenance issues or, items that needed to be, I know last
We
year.
haven't had anything
like
above and beyond what we would typically do. It's relatively minimal. I think it's around about 1,000 a month, maybe, give or take, and maybe even less. So
But we
about
haven't
10,000.
had, I know, because last year we had an AC replacement, we had other.
Yeah, no, there's
like,
nothing missing
significant
like that.
repairs or
No.
things. Okay,
No.
perfect.
Yes, I'm just requesting to renew the lease for the year at the same conditions as we requested.
Okay, so, at the same rate, is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, here's my opinion on this is, obviously there's a project that was in litigation to no fault of Kim's, no fault of the CRAs, no fault of the cities. And, I think if that wouldn't have happened, you may be in your new building already.
I believe so.
And, Hurricane Alley is and has been the anchor of East Boynton Beach. Before you had 500 Ocean, before you had a lot of this newer development, everyone was coming over here for Hurricane Alley. It's a staple, right? It created a draw, before people even wanted to come here. And so I think, we owe it to our local businesses who are loyal to the city, loyal to the CRA, to assist where we can. And so I'm totally fine with, renewing as it is now. I believe, hopefully, construction will start sooner than later, and you'll get into your new home. So that's my position.
Any other comments,
Yeah,
questions?
I agree with, I agree that I'm in support of not increasing the rent and leaving it as it is, moving forward to the next year.
Board Member Hay?
I am in agreement to keep the rent the same. As been stated already, I don't have to restate that, but he's been a faithful entrepreneur in the city of Boynton.
Going on 30 years. Thank you.
Board Member Cruz?
And same for me, I support not having an increase in the rent and keeping it as is.
I agree. So we have a motion.
Motion, what exactly do you need, Kathy?
Yeah, how do
Just
we
a
word
motion to renew the lease as the current terms. All right, motion to renew the lease annually? What,
Just as requested.
okay, all right, motion to renew the lease as
Second.
requested.
Catherine, the lease agreement, though, has an increase in the rent, so that needs to be modified?
Yes, we will modify, the draft in your packet does have that. We will modify that number consistent with his motion before it's signed.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Okay, and then we were moving up 14B?
D.
D. Okay, moving on to 14D. The next item for discussion and consideration is the continued discussing consideration of the Second Amendment to Purchase and Development Agreement between CRA and BBQ Oz LLC for the 115 North Federal highway mixed. Mr. Tack?
All right. The CRA Board, back in June of '22, approved a purchase and development agreement, a tax increment revenue funding agreement, and a parking lease agreement with BBQ LLC for the Pierce. They have proposed an additional, a second amendment. During their permitting process, it was discovered by Affiliated that the utility relocation undergrounding needed to be occur prior to the construction of the garage structure located at the north portion of the property. Their team has coordinated with FP&L and the city to come up with a estimate of the cost of the proposed improvements, which is around $520,000. They have not been able to develop a firm cost, but are working towards that. As such, they have proposed a second amendment to the agreement, which would allow them to close on the property within a couple months in order to complete the utility relocation work ahead of the vertical construction of the project. At the last meeting, the board expressed a desire to explore an alternative option in which this area would retain ownership of the property and provide funding for the necessary work to be repaid on the closing date. However, after further investigation between CRA staff and legal, it was determined that that option is not feasible. As a result, we are looking at either to proceed with the option that the developer has proposed as a second amendment, or to continue under the terms of the existing agreement. If we adhere to the current agreement, construction would need to commence on, based upon what the developers cited. If we proceed under the current agreement, they would start construction on the south end, which would impact how long Hurricane Alley would be able to stay up and running. So I'll turn to Catherine to talk about the actual specific terms of this agreement, but that's kind of a highlight of how we're at today.
Sure, thank you. So just to refresh everyone, one of the reasons that this has come before you is because typically the CRA does not turn over property without financial assurances in place that a project can be prosecuted to completion. In this case, as Tim articulated, the developer came to us with an alternative proposal in which they would provide such financial assurances at a later date. And if they're not provided, then the project or the property could be reverted to the CRA. So this agreement, as it exists right now, provides for a reversion of the property to the CRA if various portions of the project are not completed properly. So this adds that financial insurance component to that. So to sort of recap the general process, because I think it's helpful for this discussion, is we would enter into a purchase and development agreement upon showing of financial wherewithal to complete the project. We would close on the property, they would take ownership and commence construction. This is a little bit of a moving around of the deadlines. And so if this is to move forward, we did put some additional protections in the agreement, both in terms of adding the financial insurances as a cause for reverter, and also the developer agreed that they would pay attorney's fees if the CRA had to take legal action to prosecute the reverter, so long as the CRA was successful. So those are sort of the main benefits. It's an atypical procedure for us. We did explore a variety of other options with the developers, but there are sometimes difficulties in public procurement requirements and developer desires and the way to make everyone both legally and financially comfortable. So we've come back with these as the two most viable solutions. So one is to allow the project to proceed as it is currently contracted for. Developer has represented that they're able to complete the project as anticipated if we do nothing. The other is to accelerate the closing, turn the property over before they give us financial assurances, but allow us to revert it if things start to go south. So we can run through the other options we discussed if necessary. Again, they were deemed either not legally comfortable or economically viable, but we do have that information. And I also believe that the applicant is here. Yes, I see Mr. Burns out there and as well as Ms. Cullen. So if you'd like to hear from them, I'm sure they'd like to at your option.
Catherine,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the deadline, or what, looking at the agreement, I don't see anything specific. What agreement have you proposed or have they agreed to that they would provide us the financial documents after.
Sure, let me scroll to it real quick.
Thank you.
Okay, it's no later than the date. So under the existing agreement, they have a closing date, and I'm gonna have to, I apologize, I'm gonna have to scroll to it. But right now, they do have a closing date deadline. And then the financial assurances would still have to be provided to us on that date. It's just that they would already own the property at that point. So it doesn't extend their timing to get financing. And I can get you the date in just a second.
While Catherine's looking for that, so the holdup, just so I understand, is there's this utility issue, and they need to be updated. Can we elaborate on that? And who's responsible for that?
I can have Mr. Burns talk about
I'll
that.
say, and while he's coming up, it's 36 months after the receipt of land use approvals would be the closing date. Land use approvals does include plating, so although there are some land use approvals in place, they have not yet hit the trigger for that 36 months. So more than 36 months from now would be the providing of financial assurances.
Good evening. Jeff Burns with Affiliated Development. First off, thank you for moving this item up. My little girl has a birthday today, so it'll allow me to get back to her. Yes, so we have to underground both FPL lines and replace some sewer along the alleyway on the north portion of the property.
And you can't do that now because we haven't closed on the property?
So typically, you're not going to go spend, $500,000 improving property that is not yours. So, it's a requirement for us and our funding partners to make sure that if we're going to spend money, that we own the property. And there's a requirement in order for us to get bank financing and to sign a GMP with our contractor that these utilities get out of the way, because that's where we're building our project.
And would this allow you to start with, will this allow you to start the new Hurricane Alley faster to get Kim in her new location?
Correct. So we sequenced construction in a manner of which allows us to start on the north portion of the property, which is her new building, before we demolish her existing structure, which is on the south portion of the building. And the reason we sequence things that way is because we want to keep the duration for which she's going to be closed to as little as possible, for her business and the viability of her employees and everybody. And so by doing all this work, it allows us to start construction on the north portion of the site. Without this, we would be forced to start construction on the south portion of the site, because we'll be waiting on the utility companies to come complete this work, which could take a long period of time. And that would just extend the duration for which she would be closed, because we'd have to demolish the building right out of the gate.
Okay. Yeah, this has been unfortunate with setback after setback. I don't have any more questions right now.
Jeff? Trying to understand all these moving parts here. As it stands now, we've gone from 3 options down to 2 as what we originally started out with. This problem with utilities, was this not foreseen from the beginning? Why is this coming up now?
Yes, no, this was an unforeseen site condition. Generally speaking, you don't get into these types of things until you get into the permitting process, which we're well into. So, this is something that we didn't know about going in, otherwise we would have structured the agreement right out of the gates very differently. And so this is part of development. We encountered this. It's a requirement. This isn't anything that we caused. In fact, these utilities don't service our property. They service outside properties. We're willing to spend the money to relocate them in a manner and improve them in a manner which benefits the general public, but certainly nothing that we could have encountered prior to this getting into the permitting process.
But you want us to pay for that $500,000.
No, actually, I'm proposing to pay for it.
Now, I guess, okay, I'm willing to go along with option two, as I understand it, but I need some words in there to assure that if they go south for whatever reason, which he tells me they're not going to because they really have to complete this project, and I want to believe them, but having gone through what we've gone through, okay, I want a little more assurance that if they go south, then, you know, we get our land. And we didn't have that before. We lost that. It was embarrassing to me. And I don't want to go through that again. I like Jeff and Bonnie, but business is business. And if there could be some words that could be put in the agreement to assure us that that will not happen, I know we would have to go through court and attorney fees and all kind of craziness for a long length of time. I'm hoping we don't get there, Jeff. I'm hoping we don't get there. But getting back to my point, can we put some words in there to give us a little more assurance that that won't be a problem for CRA and city?
There's a reverter.
Yeah,
There's a reverter
in it.
clause in this agreement that's, so, I believe another project you're referencing in the past, there was not a reverter clause in that agreement. There is a reverter clause in this agreement. So if the developer doesn't perform as required, the CRA has the ability to get the project back. We added, so right now that, sure. Vicki, will you pull up the purchase and development agreement, please?
Next. Hand me a tissue.
I'm going to show it to you in two parts because we're amending it. But I would like for you to see it. And it's paragraph 22.1, Vicki. And so I'm going to recap it while she's pulling it up. But if construction doesn't occur pursuant to the deadline set forth in the agreement, the CRA can exercise reverter. Now, prior to this proposed amendment, there is no requirement that if they don't give us financial assurances, the property will revert. The reason that that doesn't exist is because under the agreement as it exists, they won't own the property until they give us financial assurances, so there'd be nothing for us to revert. So what we've done in this case, in the proposed agreement for your consideration, is added to the existing reverter clause a provision that if the developer is unable to provide financial assurances, then that is grounds to revert the property. And that would occur on the date that was originally set as the closing date. In addition, the developer has agreed that if we have to take any legal action as prosecution or defense to secure that reverter and the CRA is successful, the developer would be responsible for our reasonable attorney's fees. So that further minimizes the financial risk to the CRA. It does come with a time risk, of course, and there's always a risk when we're turning over a large asset, right, without the financial assurances, so a bit of a risk remains. And to be clear, there's nothing in this proposed amendment that accelerates any timeline in the construction. Now, Mr. Burns is representing, and I think honestly and practically, that he anticipates that it would speed up his process, but there's no proposed change to the agreement for that.
So, sorry, and board member, maybe I can clarify. So if we are able to close on the property, in the next 60 days, we would get back on FPL's schedule. We were on their schedule previously and we got moved off. So we're set back a few weeks because of that, but because we haven't been able to get back to them with a start date on this utility work. But assuming we're able to close, we'll get back on FPL's schedule and we'll immediately commence the work on the north portion of the site with regards to the utility relocation. So that work would take place very quickly, and again, it's $500,000 or more out of our pocket that we're willing to spend. So it definitely adds more risk from our side of the table as well, but something we're obviously committed to doing.
We got risk too because we giving up the land and you haven't proven your finances. So That's a risk on our part that disturbs me, because that's where we were before. And I hear what you're saying, but I've seen reverter clause go south, okay? And it drug on and on and on and on. A lot of court fees. So I'm going to trust, okay, our legal, that we'll protect it this time, and by the reverter clause, and I'm going to trust you to do what you say you're going to do.
Of course.
Because a lot of developers have not. They say one thing and they speak with forked tongue. So I don't want that to happen again, that's all.
Understood.
I'm just nervous based on what we've already gone through.
Yes. No, I completely understand. I understand what happened at Town Square. I understand the concern with the board. If it makes you feel any better, I mean, we're building these projects in every neighboring city around Boynton Beach right now. They're all public-private partnerships projects. We manage money for public pension plans, including first responders for Boynton Beach. I mean, we're not going anywhere. You know, we're not from out of nowhere. This is our home. We're continuing to do projects here, and we'd be crazy not to get this one going, so.
I have one question. Why were you removed off of the FP&L list? Why do you have to get back on it?
Well, we were on there for so long, we couldn't commit to a start date because we weren't sure what we were going to be able to do with regards to closing on the land, so
Okay.
they just bumped us off, and we'll get back in the queue.
Board Chair, if I may, I'd like to add just sort of one additional provision that may be relevant to Board Member Hayes' consideration, which is that in the agreement, in the instance that we have to take back the property, we do refund the purchaser the purchase price of the property, and along with if they had improved the property to some degree, then we would also pay them back for the verifiable out-of-pocket costs. That's fairly standard. What we have added into this, in addition to that, is that anything that they do for this pre-construction work, we do not refund them for. So that's just a little bit of an additional protection. It's minor compared to the cost of the rest of the development, but it does, again, it would ensure that the CRA is not on the hook for the cost of these improvements if the property were not to go through.
Good, thank you.
Chair. Catherine, so I understand there's the typical, or what was in the original agreement was 36 months, is that what you're saying? So, but I know that you don't anticipate that. So is that an honor before? Is it honor before that? Because obviously, after the utilities are done and after he has his plat, can we set that, can we modify that date to make more sense so that we're,
Sure.
because, I mean, 36 months is wide open, but if we know that the utilities are gonna be done and we know that when the plat should be done, can we change that or modify that so we have a little bit more concrete on when we can expect? Obviously, we don't want to, I mean, 36 months from now, I would expect you're well on your way to construction, and we haven't even gotten the financing requirements. So I want that, I would like to see how we can modify that to make it make sense, because in 36 months from now, I'm hoping you'll have shovels in the ground and be building. So he can't be in the middle of building, and then we're getting the financing squared away.
Board member, maybe I can help address that. The reason why we establish these dates, they're deadlines, they're absolute end dates. Just know that we structured, and you have a very good attorney over here, we structured this entire agreement to align interests. We have millions of dollars that we've purchased property, we've spent millions of dollars pursuing this project, and that money is burning a hole in our pocket. The quicker we get going, the better off we're gonna be. The more we delay things and the more we're sitting tight, the more it impacts us negatively. And so these are inherently built in. We have an alignment of interest to get this project going as quickly as possible. And we have, and by the way, every single deadline that we have, even though that they've been 24 months, we've done in a fraction of that time. So every single deadline that we've had, that we've accomplished to this point, which has been several, we've outperformed it significantly, because Our goal is to get this project going as quickly as possible. The reason you establish deadlines is for unforeseen circumstances, i.e. a lawsuit. We could have something happen with the economy, something completely outside of our control that doesn't allow us to move forward within a particular period of time. But I can assure you that we have a complete alignment of interest in here, even though it says 36 months. It's not going to be 36 months. It shouldn't be unless something completely unforeseen occurs, and that's why we build those timeframes in.
Right, no, and I can understand that. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to have it be a set 36 months. If it said on or before, then that could
Oh,
make
it's-
sense, like everything is.
It
So
is.
that was my only clarification, is if it didn't say on or before, then I would want that, because I don't want him to be in the middle of construction and then our deadline, then he all of a sudden shows up with, I mean, that was my point, is let's make it clear.
It is a no later than the 36 months you're
Okay.
talking about. So I just want to make sure that I'm answering your question completely. The 36 months you're referring to is the 36 months from the last land use approval that was the closing date, right?
Right, because you're saying that.
That's when the
that's gonna
financial-
be the deadline for the financials
Yes, ma'am.
at this point. So yes, as long as that says on or before, then it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, because what I just didn't want us to be in the middle of construction, then that deadline is here and it doesn't make sense. So I just wanted, since we're changing parts and we're moving parts, I just wanted to make sure that made sense.
If you give me 1 second here, I will read you the exact language, but I forget if it's no later than, but it is a 36 month at the very latest, not a specifically assigned day.
Perfect. And while you're looking at that, Tim, this obviously doesn't affect our quarterly updates, and obviously we would be getting those, continuing to get those quarterly updates, even if this gets approved, that doesn't change moving forward, correct?
This will not change your quarterly reporting term that's required per the agreement.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, it says close within 36 months after purchaser's receipt of the land use approvals unless extended pursuant to the agreement or signed by both parties. And then they do have the ability to extend the closing date up to 12 months with the CRA approval. The amendment does streamline that to some degree, because the approval as it exists shall not be unreasonably withheld, conditioned, or delayed. That typically means that it would be granted. So there's no additional time. Again, the developer is not offering to accelerate anything as a portion of this. In writing, he's articulating that practically it will accelerate it, but there is no written acceleration that is a part of this agreement, so it's not enforceable for acceleration. That's just the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Tim is also reminding me that we also preserve the absolute completion of construction date in here. That's not affected, and it's reiterated in this as well, so that it's absolutely clear that there's no extension of time granted by this either.
Okay.
Talking to myself over here.
Oh, and it's still going, Tim, you got to turn that off.
You like the volume? Can you remind me what the completion date is, or what the absolute start
Yeah, it
of
was
construction?
9.5 years from the effective date of the agreement, which was signed 7/5/2022, so 2030, I'm rounding. No, I'm bad at math. 2032.
It'll be finished before then.
Right.
It better be.
We hope so.
Right, Jeff?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
So, my question with the reverter clause, can you walk me through what would it take for us to have a reverter? Like, at what point would we need to do that, if what happened?
So there are several construction deadlines contained within the agreement. Failure to meet those construction deadlines would be ground for reverter commencement, completion, some other things within there.
Can you remind me the date of commencement?
Sure.
Was
I want to say it's 12 months after the closing date. Let me look. I apologize, I should have
If it was within
memorized this.
60 days, it would be 12 months after that.
And so that's one of them. And then what we would be adding to this, if you all opt to take the route where you amend the purchase and development agreement, we would also be adding failure to provide the required financial information within 36 months of the last land use approval. So it would be an additional ground for a reverter. So again, the both options are before you to have it proceed as is or to take this atypical. We've worked with the developer to put on the guardrails that are acceptable to the developer and that would put this more in line with our normal processes.
Okay, any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Or is there,
I'm comfortable with the provisions regarding the reverter, with the addition of the financial information. I'm okay to move forward with the request. So I'll make a motion.
You may make a motion at some point. I'll just respectfully remind Board Chair that public comment will be required for this item
any
before
other
you vote.
public, anyone in the public that would like to speak up on this? Please state your
Cindy
name.
Falco Di Corrado. I think I just heard, if I heard correctly, that the city and the fire department's pensions are tied into this project. If I heard that correctly, isn't that a conflict of interest? I'm just bringing that to the attention so that, I think that's what I heard the gentleman say when he said that the fire department and the police department's pensions are tied into this project. I just think that would be a conflict of interest, that's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mike McCray. First of all, I want to say to Jim, good luck. You will get the job done. Thank you all for giving me the go-ahead. We sat on this project too long. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?
Online.
No, it looks like they're all
No
for
comments
11.
online.
Yeah.
Okay, would any of my colleagues like to make a motion, but you would have to let us know what that motion should be worded.
Yeah,
Yeah, Catherine, I'm gonna need your help.
Please.
would you state it and then I'll state?
If you would like, so I'm understanding from your prior statement that you would like to approve the draft second amendment to the purchase and development agreement as presented, subject to final legal review.
So move.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Thank you. The motion passes 5-0 unanimously. We're ready to move on. Okay. Okay, we have to go back. Back. Okay, so now we're moving on to regular public comment, please. Hold on, let me go back into this. The public comment section of the meeting is for public comments on items on consent agenda or items that are not on the agenda. So again, if you're representing a business listed under consent agenda, or if you're discussing an item that's not on the not on the agenda, now would be the appropriate time to come to the podium. You can begin by stating your name for the record. Each person has 3 minutes. After we conclude with those in persons, we will move to online.
Yes, Mark Hara, George, Boynton Beach. For the last 2 months, FRA has been working diligently on trying to get their point across to the legislature. I know this because I get FRA updates every week, and it has been the primary topic on their reports, on their newsletter, and I encourage you to contact your representatives. Senator Lori Berman is on the Rules Committee. They're going to be meeting on this, and they need to understand that our CRA supports the FRA backing. Also, Representative Casello and others, you need to make sure that they understand the CRA's position. Next, I wanted to comment on the Cottage District project. This goes back a long, long way. It is so good to see dirt being moved and stuff coming out of the ground on that, because this goes all the way back to when Lisa Bright was first executive director. That's how long this project has been in the works, and it is so good to see it come to fruition. It has been a very costly project. Costs are not done yet, but it has been costly to this point. It has been one of the more costly projects that the CRA has done over the years. And I want to commend you on the efforts to try and get a CRA executive director. It has been very difficult, and the current situation with the legislators has made it even more difficult to get an executive director. Please keep trying. There are good people out there in the industry that are available as well, and please pursue that. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Mike McCray again. 14C, will be able to comment on 14C?
Yes.
Thank you. With saying that, I'd like to say to you all, and especially to Commissioner/Board Member Turkin, thank you for bringing it up before this board and before this city, sir. House Bill 991 and Senate Bill 1242. Senate Bill 1242 will not affect any healthcare workers, anybody like that. But you did what you're supposed to have done, sir, as being a seasoned person. You stayed before the game. Continue to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing all right. Thank you.
Hi, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. First, I want to say it's incredibly cold in here. You guys really need to revisit the ice box tonight. So obviously, I'm dressed appropriately for today. Yes, in case you don't know, my whole family are all Gators. So I want to say, yay, the University of Florida won the National Basketball Championships last night for the men. It is our 49th national championship, FYI. We are the only Division I school to hold both football and basketball championships in the same year. That was 2006. I wanted to share some facts about UF. Since 1972, we've won 156 Olympic medals. $1.26 billion was spent and went into research last year alone. Remember that number, $1.26 billion. The average GPA is a 4.5 to a 4.7 to get in. The Independent Florida Alligator newspaper, which is the student-run newspaper, is the largest student-run newspaper in the United States. The homecoming there is the largest student-produced event in the world through Florida Blue Key, which is the oldest honorary in the state of Florida, and I'm a member of that, and I worked on homecoming. Some of the economic drivers for the University of Florida, of course, as we all know, is Gatorade, Luterna, which is the FDA gene therapy for blindness, this new Smart House, there's a cat feline AIDS vaccine that was invented there. They've invented a bandage coating that kills antibiotic-resistant bacteria. They invented lab-grown skin grafts, an HIV saliva test, a diabetes test that will allow you to find out if you're destined or on that path years before symptoms show. A company called TrueSopt is a glaucoma medicine that has brought UF millions and billions of dollars, as well as other exciting things, including high oleic peanut plants, which I guess is a special type of peanut that they license out to like 30 peanut companies, so odds are you're eating it. And of course, Centricon, which controls termites. Now, part of why I'm telling you all this is, I can't forget this. They are the second highest university in the United States for BAs to African Americans and the third highest in the United States for Hispanics. The reason I'm saying this is we ought to consider making our mall an economic driver. West Palm Beach was very stupid and egos made the UF campus drop. Maybe you guys ought to think about putting the UF campus on our mall location. Think about the economic driver of having $1.26 billion in research in our city. Think about the high incomes, the high salaries, and that would certainly be better off than a bunch of apartments that none of us need or want. So maybe you guys want to reach out. Obviously, UF wants to have branch campuses. Maybe you guys should be looking at this. And yes, some of you seem excited. And go Gators.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank y'all for your service. Thank the police officers back there for your service. My name's Cindy. I've been a resident for 34 years here. I've seen growth beyond what Boynton can handle. I agree with him. Oh, he went to his daughter's birthday. That's a beautiful project. It's going to benefit everybody. He's willing to cover the underground stuff. He's not asking you for any more money. My concern is the town square project. The asking of the extra money. If you don't have the money, you don't build it. It's that simple. If I wanted to go build a house and I don't have the money, I don't build it. And 8-story just isn't in sync with Boynton Beach. This is more of a fishing, surfing type of atmosphere. We don't need to turn into a Fort Lauderdale. There's 3 or 4 other projects going on. They all seem fair. They all seem, their height limits are reasonable. They're not going to bring in outrageous amount of traffic and bring in road rage and crime, and insurance is going to go through a roof. That's how an insurance company picks your insurance. How many people are in the area? Your insurance goes up and up and up. They don't need the 35 million. They need to either compromise, either don't build, or maybe do 4 stories instead of 8. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Gregory Hartman, 1083 Southwest 25th Place. First, I want to say I think the Pierce is a great project. You know, the power situation seems unfortunate, but I think they seem like they've been a willing partner this whole time and have hit some snags. But I personally think that, you know, that's a project I'm still in big support of and can't wait for it to be done. I was hoping that would be the first of our downtown projects done. Secondly, on the time equities thing here with our town square project, these are 2 big parcels, and it's kind of been a climax since 2017 or 18 with this happening. I don't think anyone thought this situation was perfect, but I think you know, the choices to make are not always perfect, and they're hard choices to make. With that said, I think the first phase is almost set in stone from how I look at it, and I think the approval is not done, but almost we're being walked that direction. So maybe that is the right thing to do. And what I would say is we have to create leverage for ourselves as a CRA and a city. If we're going to approve something, we want to get something next time. And in my opinion, that would be a building more in character, at least in some ways, with the second phase of the project. So maybe we don't get exactly what we want the first time. It's a vote we can hold our nose and make. But the second time, we can get a chance to build something that maybe has more of the vision and impact we wanted to have on the city versus a vote that we took because we felt compelled due to what other commissions or boards may have done. So with that said, I wish you guys luck tonight and good luck on the vote.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Barber. I'm at 229 Southwest 1st Avenue. I want to commend University of Florida for winning the national championship, but I would remiss if I didn't point out that guard Elijah Martin, number 15, played for FAU for 4 years before he got to Florida. And so we were happy to help them win their national championship. I'd like to speak on the Town Center project. Commissioner, I appreciate your bringing up the need for more activity, for activating our waterfront, for bringing more businesses in, and you compared it to Boca Raton. My wife and I moved here in 2020 from Boca Raton. Interestingly, Boca Raton, when they formed their CRA, the idea was we were going to create offices in downtown. Meisner Park was built. It has not been as successful as it could have been. And one of the things that the city's now doing in order to accommodate that is building more housing downtown. They just are in the process of doing a public-private partnership on their City Hall project. And the 2 top contenders, one was more office and retail, and the other was more apartments, and they went with the apartments. This, as I have researched this deal, this probably wasn't the best deal that Boynton could have done, but it is a deal that's done. And I think for the city, for our retail to build businesses, we're going to need to have residents here. And I think it's going to have a positive impact on our tax base. And I encourage you to if there are things that we want, conditions that we want to add conditions, but we need this project to get started. And with the uncertainty in the financial markets right now, this should be a good thing that we can do to push the project forward. So thank you very much.
Board Chair, if I may have just conferred with the Board Chair, just as a reminder to the public, this is public comment for items on consent agenda or not on the agenda. Public comment will be taken for the Town Square item at the time it is considered. Of course, the comments that were made tonight will be incorporated into the record for that. But just to remind the public, there will be a separate discussion on Town Square, and public comment for that item should be presented then.
There, I'm on now. Cindy Falco Di Corrado. I wanted to commend you, Vice Mayor Woodrow. That's been a very big concern of mine. We lost so much, $40 million stolen from us by our last leadership with Lori Rivera. So I appreciate you wanting to put stop holds there. That $10 property that I even asked when they were going to sell it to Ocean 500 for $10, and I'll buy it for $10. And here they paid $10 and they sold it for millions. It's just criminal what happened. I hope they're still in litigation. I hope that we get something back from what was stolen from, because it's not stolen from you, just you. It's stolen from all of us. It's we the people. That was $40 million of our tax dollars. And I believe in having businesses in our community, but doing it with responsibility. It's businesses that take our tax dollars lower, not building the housing. Now, I'm not saying we don't need housing, but we need more businesses to take the tax dollars off of we the people, because we the people are being taxed to the nth. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Flynn Holland, and I'm here to talk about the Andrews House. A group of us from the Saving the Historic Andrews House spoke with you and a group of people, Mr. Tack. And what I came away with, we weren't invited to the meeting. You met with Mike and with Tom. And what it ended up being was like, we haven't really gone forward in anything. You talked about things that had been discussed a month ago, and the $2 to $4 million to fix the Magnuson House. I don't know where that's a lot of disparity between it, and I don't know where you get those numbers. We want to help. We want it on the agenda. We want to start talking about it. It has come to agreement that the CRA would be the best use of trying to find out how to take hold of the Andrews House and do something with it. But what we asked at the very beginning is we didn't slag along and have it lost in the amount of months that it would take. We, in the Saving, have talked about it, have had meetings. We had a charrette. And then we come back, and I feel like nothing's been done. So I would like to request it being on the next CRA agenda. We have yet to have it on the CRA, and let's discuss it and see the plan or not plan so that we can go forward, because we've set up for fundraising. We can't fundraise if we don't see the future of the Andrews House. We think it's viable. I go back to, I told you last time I was here that you look at the history, and when we're looking at everything that's happened here, we had a charrette in 2014 when the whole city changed. And what we brought up as the public is still what we believe in, which is, what is our advantage? Mr. Turkin said our advantage is we're close to the sea, we're ocean-oriented, and our history. And we've got a center of history within our city. We would like to add to it as a pioneer village. We've done work, but we're stymied unless we can go forward. So please, at the next agenda for the CRA, could we put it on? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Warnke. I'm the Vice Chair of the CRA Liaison. Move Historic Andrews House. I'm also happy the Gators won, but I'm a FAU owl. And I didn't know that player was an FAU player previously. Great game. So I made a list of things that we know about the Andrews House and a couple that we don't know. Number one, we know that this item will be on your next agenda for the CRA meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, or sorry, it's the May meeting. We know that the owner, Manny Matto, wants the house moved or torn down, unless he's changed his mind. He's been saying that over and over. He almost knocked it down, so we know he wants it off his property. We know it is the oldest house in Boynton Beach, and it is structurally sound. It was completely renovated top to bottom in 2001. We also know that the latest plans by our committee that were drawn up by Mike Fitzpatrick, placing the house on the Magnuson House property, were favorably reviewed by city staff and the CRA director last week, pending further review. We also know that $300,000 in seed money has been allocated by the CRA for repurposing historic houses in Boynton Beach. We also know the results of the charrette were clear. Move it to the Magnuson property on Ocean Avenue and repurpose it for light, very light commercial. What we don't know is if the owner, Manny Matto, has been responsive to outreach from the CRA to arrange for acquisition by the CRA. So we're more optimistic than ever that the house can be saved and moved to the Magnuson property on Ocean Avenue for use open to the public, like commercial, a tea room, a coffee house, something very light that could be used especially by city employees and be an economic driver for the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Justin Olive. I'm a city resident here. I'm also a small business owner. I have a coffee shop called Common Grounds here on Woolbright and Federal. I just wanted to show my support to both the Pierce development, but also Time Equities. I know that it's coming up soon, but my son is at home and I need to get back to him very, very quickly. I am a current tenant, a commercial tenant in Casamara, which is a Time Equities development in West Palm Beach. When I heard that they were going to be doing the development here, I was personally ecstatic because my experience with them has been nothing but amazing. And I immediately reached out to Rob because I was very excited to hear that they were going to be doing it. One thing that I've noticed with mixed uses is that a lot of times it's not always the retail, the commercial is not always prioritized or thought out. But at Casamara, with Time Equities, it was actually thought out. And so it was a nice change up from what I've experienced. You know, One Boynton has been a nice home for me, but the retail was not necessarily planned out very well. And so when I saw some of the renderings that they were going to be doing here at Town Hall, I can see that it was actually going to make a lot of sense. And so I wanted to be here tonight to show my support for their request for the TIF incentive, because I understand the climate right now, even with the CRA, with what there can be approving or some of the things that are being proposed. I think the city really needs to be trying to do everything they can to get this development pushed through. My wife and my son come to the library very often, and it's been tough to see the development undeveloped for so long. And we live here, we do business here, and to see this development finally get going, I think it is critical to see it done. I know we've had a lot of different things that the city has approved, but I think we should be the most aggressive with, the thing that's going to be like right-centered to the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Please.
I'm Christy. I'm a resident of the city of Boynton for over 25 years. I've never been to one of these meetings. I'm here in full agreement with what he just said. I think that the city needs change. I'm happy to see change. There's been nothing for so many years. So to see a little bit of growth, maybe some new restaurants, new businesses, Hotels, I love that idea. Thinking hotel with maybe a restaurant inside, maybe a rooftop bar. That would be amazing. Me and all of my friends, coworkers, we take all of our money to Delray, we take it to West Palm, everywhere but Boynton. I would like to stay here. I think that it definitely, we need change, we need growth. We love everything that's going on. My family also has a business in the city of Boynton, so totally support that. The more people that move here, the more the businesses are going to flourish. So I'm totally okay with more residential, more apartments, more condos, more business, more restaurants, more things to do. Boynton Beach is very boring. I understand that there's all different types of people that live here, but we should also care about the people that have families, because where are we going to go eat? Restaurants are closing, things are not, there's too many empty places, and I think if we redevelop, bring in a lot of growth and something new, then it's going to bring the people, it's going to bring the money for the businesses, and I think it would be great. There was something else I was gonna say. The other reason why I'm here is there's so much negativity on social media regarding these new developments, so I wanted to be here as a voice to just say, I think you guys are doing a great job, and I love what's happening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name's Linda Morton. I'm a 52-year resident of Palm Beach County, a 26-year resident of Boynton Beach. I was noticing today in the handouts that the city motto says to create a sustainable community by providing exceptional municipal services in a financially responsible manner. And I'm directing my talk to this 14C, the Town Square project. I strongly disagree with this incentive that is being requested by the developer, because it does not seem to meet a definition of working in a financially responsible manner. We have already approved this project, and as Cindy had mentioned before this, if the developer got his approval, I don't understand why we're now allowing him to come in backwards and say, oh, sorry, I need more money, and the city is responsible for providing that. There's many people, contrary to what the last woman said, that we have new projects going. We have pending projects, several other residential projects, and an 8-story building is not in the compliant with what Boynton Beach is about. If we are thinking, just as Tom said earlier, about the amount of garbage, the amount of utilities, the amount of apartments that this is going to allow, it just doesn't make sense for our city. We just don't have the resources that this is requesting, and I think it's just a break for the developer, and it's just another way that he gets more money, but it doesn't serve the city in any way. And so I would urge you, please do not approve this TIF request for this incentive for this project. Thank you.
No, they're online for consent items if we
Okay.
pull them.
So we're good with moving on. So public comment is now closed. We will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items my colleagues would like to pull for discussion? Take that as a no.
Nope, motion to approve consent agenda.
Okay, so.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we'll wait for withdrawal. Okay, we're good. Motion passes. Okay. All right, so then we're going on to.
Do you want to just, there were people online to speak on consent. I'm assuming if we pulled the items, so I don't know if you want to just let them know, Chair, that if they're, that they don't have to, like, everything has been approved, so, for consent, so.
And if they would still like to provide public comment, they may on the consent items.
Well, there's no way for me to, I mean, unless we there's no way for us to know if they want to speak without it having been pulled. We didn't pull the consent item, like so online it says they're here to speak on 11F. We didn't pull 11F. So then, there's not a way, there's not a mechanism to find out if they still want to speak or not, is what I'm saying.
Can we let them in item by item, just to let them in? I realize that that is potentially technologically inefficient, but if,
Yes,
Pick the first
so,
person, have them identify their item. We'll go
right.
from
yes, so it says Danielle is here to speak on 11F, which is the approval of the commercial business grant for Bailey's Blends. If she would like to speak, she can start now. Danielle, are you online?
Yes, I'm online.
Did you have a public comment on your item?
I did not have a public comment. I was just here in case the board had any questions about our application.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is,
Board Chair, if I may, they're the applicants.
right,
So I don't know, we don't normally hear from them unless, yeah, that's.
If they've indicated public comment, we did take public comment on the consent agenda items. They were given the opportunity. However, we need to allow for public comment to the extent that they believe that that's what they were signing for. So I realize that it's inefficient, and we'll work with technological staff for the next meeting, but if we could let them speak if they'd like to.
yep. So then the next one, Erica Roberts on 11G, that's on the approval of the commercial business marketing grant program. If she would like to speak, if she could just, if you can go online, that would be great.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Ms. Roberts, did you have any comments that you wanted to make on your item? Going once? Okay. We can come back if she comes back on. 11I, Craig Drillich, if you have, that's the approval of the commercial business marketing grant program for property damage consultants. If you have any comments, you can speak now.
No comments.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that was all of the, that are designated under 11, yes. Right. Real quick. IT, before we move on, there is one person on, online, but it doesn't indicate what item they're wanting to speak under. Can you update that, please, so that we know? Thank you. Oh, they're gone now. Okay. We're on 13, the CRA Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to turn over to our acting executive director, Mr. Tack. Can you give us an update on the CRA Advisory Board?
Absolutely. There was not quorum at the April 3rd meeting, so we did not have enough attendees or members to have a meeting. So we will be looking forward to the next meeting, which I believe we will be having quorum.
Tim, can we get an email on who didn't show up to why we didn't get quorum?
Yeah, we keep track and we work with the city clerk's
Can we get
office.
that to the body?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you miss it by one?
I think there was just a miscommunication with the reappointments and whether they were reappointed or not. So I don't think it was, your typical not showing up. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions from my colleagues for staff on this item?
No.
Okay, now we'll continue to old business, which
14B.
14B. Okay, the next item for discussion and consideration is the continued discussion and consideration of the purchase of 135 Northeast Third Ave. Mr. Tack, can you please open up the item?
All right, at the last meeting in March, the CRA Board directed staff to negotiate the purchase price of the property located at 135 Northeast Third Avenue. It's a vacant parcel located in the heart of Boynton, adjacent to one of the properties that we own and just south of the Cottage District. It is a vacant parcel, about 0.33 acres. The seller has lowered the asking price as a part of the negotiation from $375,000 to $330,000 and has agreed to the CRA standard closing conditions. Just as a reminder, the property did appraise at $500,000, so it is substantially below the appraised value. They are here. There should be a representative to speak if you have any questions. The item is being brought before the board for your discussion and consideration of purchasing the property at this reduced price.
Are there any questions for my colleagues on this one?
It's always nice to have some walk-in equity. It's good.
Yeah, no, I just thank you to staff for working with the seller to, I know there was, to bring the purchase price down, and I'm in agreement to this.
Well, Teresa works hard.
What percent of increase was that? From last month until this month?
Forgive me, say again?
The percent of increase?
Well, it's actually been decreased. I don't know what the percentage is top of my head, but I think it's around 34% below appraised.
Going down?
Yeah, it is substantially less. It's, yeah, 45,000 less than what they were originally looking at.
And it went down to?
It went from 375 to 330.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good.
Any other comments from my colleagues?
Motion to approve the purchase of 135 Northeast Third Avenue in the amount of $330,000 and have the purchase and sale agreement executed by the board chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Okay, continuing on to 14C. The next item for discussion and consideration is the tax increment financing request from Time Equities, Inc. for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Town Square project located at 120 Southeast First Avenue and 100 East Boynton Beach Boulevard. Mr. Tack, can you please open this item?
All right, back in January 25, Time Equities presented before the CRA board with a request for tax increment financing for the development of 2 parcels of land located north and south of this building, which are approved as a part of the Town Square project. The Town Square project is the subject of an existing development agreement with the city of Boynton Beach. Under its existing approvals, the project will have a total of 898 residential market rate rental units, 23,500 square feet of retail space, 2 parking garages, of which 473 are public parking spaces in the garages. The south parcel will be developed as Phase 1, meaning first, of the project, and the north parcel will be developed as Phase 2. In lieu of providing workforce housing, Time Equities will make a payment to the city of Boynton Beach Workforce Housing Fund in the amount of $2.25 million per phase, so 4.5 in total. In support of the project, Time Equities has requested 95% of the tax increment revenue generated by the project, up to a maximum of $35.2 million. The request is divided between 2 phases as follows: Phase 1, $20 million, and Phase 2, $15.2 million. In January, the board heard a preliminary presentation by Time Equities concerning the developer's proposal. And at the last meeting, at the March meeting, the board directed CRA staff and legal to work with Time Equities to revise the TIF agreement to allow the following options. 1, a consolidated TIRFA agreement that covers both phases of the project, or 2 independent TIRFA agreements, 1 TIRFA per phase. In response, staff and legal have worked with the developer to prepare 2 potential TIRFA agreements, which may be executed together or separately, to respond to both requests as requested by the board. Staff is seeking direction from the board on the proposed terms and agreement structure. We have a representative from Time Equities here, Rob Singer, to discuss any questions that the board may have, as well as, forgive me, you're legal from Bonnie Miskell's office, so if you could introduce yourself, appreciate that.
Hi, good evening. For the record, Christina Valenki from Miskell Backman. My address is 14 Southeast 4th Street in Boca Raton. I am filling in for Miss Miskell this evening, so bear with me. I'm not quite as familiar with all of the details, but I have been working to catch up over the last 2 days or so when Ms. Miskell determined she had a conflict. Just to reiterate some of the items that Mr. Tack said, I mean, I know you've gone through the background, you've lived the history of the Town Square project for, probably about a decade at this point, if not longer. So no need to rehash that. But I think there is a little bit of misinformation out in the public and some that was addressed in the comments that I wanted to discuss as well. And that is really the purpose of tax increment financing. It's a tool that's afforded to CRAs where a portion of the city and county taxes that are collected can be transferred to the CRA to support redevelopment activities. It's not funds that, the CRA is spending that could be afforded to other projects. It is tax funds that come as a result of projects being built that only come to fruition after the developer meets all of its obligations, develops the project, and it's open and operating. As Mr. Tack indicated, there are numerous project benefits that come from the development of the Town Square project. They include the delivery of 473 public parking spaces. That's at a cost of about $26 million to the developer. So that's the construction cost that the developer is taking on that will be to construct the 473 public parking spaces. The city will then utilize and lease at a rate of 0% annually for a period of 100 years, and they're going to be able to share in the revenue.
I just want to make for the record that those terms were already worked out for the approval of the project prior. So these are not new additional terms for the TIF. So members of the public, I would warn you, a lot of this stuff that's going to be said are not current terms. These are terms that were decided on years ago because they needed the density to go for the project. They needed the approvals. And so a lot of these were already reconciled when this board, not me, approved this project a few years ago. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's very fair. They were previously approved. I think the point is with the TIF, there is a gap in the financing. There's a gap in the funding. The city hired their own consultant to look at the gap financing report and determined that, there is this gap of it's $35.2 million over both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the project. And the city's own consultant confirmed that the project does have a feasibility gap that would justify the request. I mean, similar analyses were done for the Hyperion project, for the villages, and TURFA agreements were approved consistent with those findings. Really, the TIF, again, is a tool to ensure the development gets constructed sooner rather than later. Time Equities has been working with the lender. They have Goldman Sachs agreed to a term sheet with one condition, and that's that the TIF gets approved. So even in this market, I think multiple clients of mine are struggling with multifamily developments for the same reason and looking for gap funding. And, interest rates have been going up, costs of construction have been going up. And now we're dealing with tariffs that have caused even more uncertainty in the market.
Which will bring rates down.
In addition to the project benefits that I've discussed, there's going to be an indirect economic impact of hundreds of millions of dollars spent locally during both the construction phase of the project and once new tenants are living at the project. Pursuant to the analysis prepared by Time Equities financial advisor, it's about $80 million per year that's going to be spent in the city, spent on businesses that are in the city, going to restaurants in the city, local services that don't exist today that those new tenants will bring in. They direct the indirect economic impact from the project to be more than $2 billion over 40 years. And as a result, that's going to create about 340 permanent jobs at businesses locally. That's jobs created to support the operations of the residential development, to fill those commercial spaces, to support people going to coffee shops, to restaurants, to services within this community. And now let me touch upon some additional benefits that the developer is agreeing to as part of this TIF. And we did work out some language for some additional proffers with Ms. Rosmell and Mr. Tact. I do have copies of the proffer terms if they have not already been distributed to the board, so I'm happy to pass those out. But essentially, you know, the developer has been listening to resident comments and concerns about the community and trying to figure out how to be a good corporate citizen, how to be a good community partner. And so they're agreeing to contribute $200,000 to the city of Boynton Beach towards the cost of relocation of the Andrews House. And they're agreeing to make that payable within 60 days of approval of the TRFA. So if the TRFA does get approved this evening, they are willing to contribute $200,000 towards relocation of that historic structure within 60 days. Further, upon completion of each project phase and delivery of the commercial space and commencement of the TIF rebates, the developer will offer a lease total of 4,000 square feet of commercial space to qualified local Boynton Beach businesses at reduced rent. So that would be 1,000 square feet in the southern parcel and 3,000 square feet in the northern parcel, because the northern parcel has more commercial square footage. And essentially, that rent will be subsidized or discounted for a period of 10 years. The rents would be discounted at 50% for 5 years, and then 25% for the remaining 5-year period. And that is really to incentivize, you know, Boynton Beach residents to maybe start up the business that they've been dreaming of, whether it's opening a family restaurant, a coffee shop. If they have a, you know, home business, then they're looking for rental space. This will help subsidize that rental space and provide them an opportunity to go into, you know, a very new and thriving development project where they'll be able to have their businesses grow. And then finally, the developer is agreeable to the use of the north and south parcels for city events until development commences for construction on each parcel. And so those are additional proffers that we'd like to make this evening for your consideration as well.
Chair, if I may. So I'm going to work backwards. The city events and parking, I think we've already nailed that down, and I think any good neighbor would do that regardless. I don't, you know, we've done that with multiple developers without trying to give them TIF. Oh, can we park here? No, it's just what a good neighbor does. The commercial rate rent, I think that's a nickel and dime offer. I think other developers who have produced less TIF have offered more on that. I don't like the cash trade-off for tax incentive. And I just want to paint the picture here. We're in this position because of the town square failure. We essentially, not we, but a previous body had entered in an agreement with no reverter clause. The developer could not perform, right? That same commission had sold this land that we're talking about now for, I think, $10 a parcel, right? $20 a parcel. And, you know, someone can correct me, Rob or you. What was your name?
Christina Valenci.
Christina, thank you, Christina. On what the purchase price was for that land. I think it was around $40 million. So essentially, the city gave away land for $20, didn't have a reverter, and then that land was purchased $40 million. And Rob, thank you for investing in the city. Thank you. It genuinely, you know, as I spoke last time, I didn't vote for the project. I think it, you know, will provide some benefits. I don't like the density. That's not, you know, that's not old news. And, you know, we negotiated, this board negotiated, you know, for months about the density, right? And so a lot of these talking points were already hashed out for that increase in density. The public parking, that was discussed, that was the number one thing I think that was discussed prior, so I don't see that as a public benefit for TIF. But back to what I was saying is we have, this land was given $20, right, to a developer, didn't perform, litigation was resolved after Time Equities had purchased the land for whatever it was, $40 or $40 million, right? The city had gotten, I think, $4.5 million from that. And then now we, as the CRA, want to give $35 million back for the same piece of land. I mean, that is a bad deal. That is a bad deal. And again, I'm not against some form of TIF, right? But as it is right now, I can't go for it. And the other, for the financing agreement with Goldman Sachs, or the letter that this is the only condition that you have, I'd like to see that, because you can say that, but I want, you don't have to show that. You're not obligated to show that, but I think that's just a talking point. And I don't think there was ever discussion of TIF initially. To be fair, I don't even think, Rob, you knew that you could get TIF for this. I think that you understood that other developers were getting it, you saw this, and you wanted to move forward, and I get it. Listen, if I'm in your shoes, I 100% get it. This is a business, I get it. I'm not knocking you for it. I just cannot, in good faith, agree to these terms as they are in front of me today.
Okay. Can I respond to some of that, or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we did not think we did not need TIF when we came here originally. It was 2022, 2023, the market was doing great. The market has turned dramatically in 2024. It has recently gotten dramatically worse. And now there is a funding gap. And if I would have been talking about it, I mean, the fact that we weren't talking about it and now now the market's collapsed and we're talking about it shows that how legitimate the situation is. We can't build. We went to the CRA. The CRA hired the consultant. The consultant has determined that the funding gap works out to, if you add it all up over time, $35 million. It's $2 million a year per project for 10 years. Look, we are partners here. We want to deliver for Boynton, and asking for TIF, just like the other developers who have a financial gap, is in keeping with our commitment to deliver for Boynton. In order to get hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of jobs, we have to build the project. So we have a gap, you guys have a tool, and what we're offering is to build the project sooner. We cannot do the TIF, but then it's not economic, and then it sits doing nothing for nobody for however long. And that's not what, we can do that, but that's not what Boynton wanted, that's not what we wanted. We approved the project with no variances. It's just what the zoning was. And we, in fact, worked to improve it and improve the master plan and make sure that it was exactly what staff wanted, what the board, what everyone wanted. So again, we're in a tough time. If we were not in a tough time, we wouldn't be here. What we've done over the last 2 months is work on contracts that, and maybe we can talk about the contracts, but they have plenty of guardrails. It says that, for example, for phase 2, if phase 2 will be reevaluated at that time. And if there's no gap because the market's improved, then there's no TIF. If we don't start phase 1 by September of 26, the whole thing is canceled. But if, and again, and the Goldman Sachs comment that it's not one condition. That was a I'll take fault on that. communicating the issue. We do have, it's not one condition, but to show you how serious this is, and I'm happy to put you on the phone with Goldman Sachs. They are a major lender of ours. They're interested in this project. They've produced a term sheet that shows all of the conditions that they would need in order to go ahead and build this project. Appraisals, this, that, the other thing. But what it also says is that we need the TIF. So you have the city's CRA consultant, you have Goldman Sachs, us. There is a gap. And without getting too complicated, it's getting a rebate of some of the taxes that we pay for a period of time in exchange for all of the upfront fees that we pay, all of the hundreds of millions of dollars of taxes that the place is going to generate over time, all of the economic activity, hundreds and hundreds of jobs. So we can unlock that potential. That's our choice. We can unlock that potential that was approved pursuant to no variances according to the plan of the town. We can unlock it sooner, or we can unlock it later, maybe generationally. But it seems to us, in keeping with our responsibility to try to develop Boynton, to come to you and say, at no cost to the city, help use the tool that you have so that we can move Boynton forward.
I'm not buying the TIF amount. I know you can go lower. I know you, Rob. I know you can go lower.
All right, well, let's move on and ask any other colleagues to have any comments on this. Go ahead, Commissioner Cruz. Oh, bye, Board Member Cruz.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think you did a good job, presenting and such. I do want to commend Commissioner Turkin for fighting for your district. I can see that you're making some really good points as well. I don't think anybody sitting on this board is happy about the history of Town Square, but I can only speak for myself. I don't think anybody in the city is happy about what happened with Town Square. Knowing the history, as briefly mentioned earlier by Board Member Turkin, it's where we had a board, I think this all started back in 2018, where we had prime downtown public land to be given, right? To find a way to have an adequate project. We had a dream of a project that was the Town Square that would really revitalize our downtown and make it a destination. But the only thing that we've gotten is disappointment, time after time, not just from one developer, but multiple, unfortunately. And at what point can we continue to make the same mistakes of the past and expect different results? Going back briefly to the history, a previous commission gave away prime downtown land for about $10, which was then sold by JKM, the developer, for about, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the amount was $44 million. That's $44 million that are not in our pocket. We could have sold it to a private investor, right? So now we want to add another $35 million. Where are we at now? And what are we really getting? Years later, this board, and the board was a little different, there were different members in here as well, tried to find a solution. After the land was given away and sold to another private developer, the city and the CRA started litigation against that developer, JKM, and we were in litigation for between 2, close to 3 years before we were able to potentially come to an agreement once we had a new board. And I can tell you that the product that was offered to us is not something that I will tell you is my favorite idea of what the Town Square should be. But the reason why I believe the board supported it at the moment, it's because it was the lesser of two evils. It was either do nothing and build nothing, or find a way to settle the lawsuit, move on, and try to find a project so that we could start building our downtown. Because right now, we've been going at this since back in 2018. So I can understand the frustration of the residents given the history of this parcel and this land. And I can understand the outrage from the community based on the pretty outrageous amount of $35 million. Now, I do think that there's a value to this, to building this specific project, but the only and/or the best value that I see is the public parking. And why is that? It's because we're gonna have city staff that need to park somewhere. We're gonna have residents that come to events that need to park somewhere. And that's the biggest benefit that I see. However, I do believe that there needs to be a sufficient return on investment of our taxpayer dollars, and we need to be like good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. And I think that the way to do that would be potentially to looking at making changes in the project itself that make the project be adequate with the intent of the city and the intent of what it is that we want to see in our downtown. If you want to build 8 stories as is, I don't love, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't love the fact that we're building all the way to the sidewalk and no setbacks and things of that nature in the way that other buildings have built. But the reason why that was approved, at least in my view, is because it was either that or nothing. And that's kind of where we're gonna be. So now that we've come at a time, kind of like a fork in the road, where we're able to make a decision, we are under no legal obligation to give any taxpayer dollars to build this building. However, if the board desired to go ahead and, provide some sort of a TIF, we need to go back to not necessarily the drawing board itself, but we need to go back and look at the project, and we need to make changes to the project that make it a benefit to our community and making it a project that is something that the community supports with regard to height, with regard to density, with regard to setbacks, with regard to green space and things of that nature. So it needs to be more of a community project if we're gonna be giving away taxpayer dollars. I think that's responsible. Now, if you guys want to build and get no taxpayer dollars, the project has been approved, and I'm giving facts. The project has already been approved, but at this point, we can either move forward with the way that we are, and if we can't build and we can't afford to build because of the current conditions, and I'm not going to say that it's not true. I mean, we know that some opinions think we're already in a recession. Some people think we're going into a recession. As you've seen the stock market, it's not doing well. We've got tariffs going on. We don't know. There's a lot of financial uncertainty. So obviously the banks are going to be very cautious with regard to lending. But if we are going to go ahead and move forward with giving away a certain amount of taxpayer dollars, we need to make changes in the project that are adequate and equal to the amount that we're going to be giving away. Thank you.
Chair Hay, any comments?
I think Board Member Cruz just stated it well, and I don't want to have to rehash that, so I agree with what she's saying. I think we need to stick with the original plans that we had, and I can't see just giving away taxpayer money either. Like I said, I don't want to go back through that, but I agree with her 110% on what
Can we
she
hold the
just stated.
applause and keep it moving along, keeping the room quiet? Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
that's it.
Chair Kelly?
I'm going to reserve my comments. I mean, I feel like I see where this is going for some reason, because I feel like we had conversations where we were in a different agreement, but so I'm going to save some of my comments, but one of the big things that we've really talked about with this project is, and what I've talked about with residents is, and the second question I get is what's going on with the mall, and then what's going on with our downtown. And I understand, and I totally support Commissioner Turkin and his support of his residents, and I understand this developer had meetings after meetings with the residents, made concessions with the residents. If the residents didn't come, that's not on him. They had public meetings. He made concessions, he made changes to the plans based on feedback that the residents provided him. And although the 473 public spaces was part of an original agreement, I just want to remind the rest of the board that the spaces that we've paid for TIF for half of this is, one project was 50 parking spots we got for the public, and the other one was 150 parking spots for the public. So I just, yes, it is a large project, and yes, there are things that were in the original development agreement. But I think that also goes into the cost analysis where, because it's 473 parking spots, that makes the project bigger than it would have been if he only had to build parking for the project itself. So I want to also take that into consideration. Also, the total fees for this project, and some of them are established and some of them we have put into place since this board has been in place in order to counter the development with our police impact fee and our mobility fee. This project, has a total fee of just about $15 million that will get paid to the city in either in phase 1 at permitting or phase 2 at permitting. And that is, this TIF money cannot go to, and I've seen this comment and I've heard this comment, we need this money to hire more officers. We need this money to make more improvements in the city. This is not the purpose of this funding. This funding cannot pay for more officers. This funding cannot pay for city improvements unless it's for a specific purpose. The CRA is governed very strictly by Florida statute, and there are only certain things that this funding can be used for. And the sole purpose for this funding to start with was to be an economic driver for a CRA district. And that is what this incentive is really used for. And so I just want to, I wanted to make sure that the public understands that, the impact fees that the developer is going to pay, the $300,000 police impact fee, the $1.6 million park impact fee, the $3.5 million in mobility fees, those are the fees that come to the city that the city can then use to, to enhance city improvements and hire more police and do those things that benefit the downtown corridor, because we understand and we know that these developments are going to impact our downtown. So I'm not going to go into, I understand this is a huge project. Yes, Rob.
And all of that is right. And the other point is that the way that the TIF program works is that we have to deliver and we have to pay the taxes, and then a portion of those taxes gets rebated. So when we talk about, like Commissioner, the idea of giving taxpayer money, it's a rebate of taxes that we pay. As you know, it's a rebate of a portion of the taxes that we pay, which then allows the project to be economically feasible. And for the same reason that you've done it for other projects, the program is there where there's a fiscal gap. This solves the fiscal gap, and then the city gets the development, the jobs. But again, if the project cannot be built, I want to just, it can't be built. And so if we don't do this, then now we are up against, the TIF and CRAs may be going away. question is, what are we going to do with the land for the next generation? At some point, it'll become potentially viable on its own. But this TIF program doesn't, I don't want to pay for the sins of, thy father. We are here invested real money and a good faith effort pursuant to the zoning to try to deliver for Boynton. So we are, as you point out, there's tariffs, there's a million things going on. This is a zero-cost program that allows the project to start, and it allows for the delivery of jobs. $80 million, each of these buildings is like a big economic engine with thousands of people living there, spending money, just like you heard from other commentary. Thousands of, literally, 2,500 people spending money in the community. That creates jobs. They get their hair done, they buy coffee, they needed lawyers, they need accountants. So again, this is tricky because we could let it go, and then the TIF, our ability to even give a TIF could likely just be over. And then what do we say? We say, okay, we have nothing. Or we can do the TIF, move forward with the project under tight guidelines. These are incentive dates, and you wind up with the downtown that the city established it wanted. I didn't establish the zoning. So that's, I think we're at a really tricky point here because we can say no and then sit. And I don't think the residents that I've talked to and that are interested in seeing the lots forever. So that's the crossroads that we're at.
Next. Okay, I would like to just briefly let people know that I too live in this neighborhood and I live right across the street from this project. So I know Board Member Turkin, you're talking about your residents, but since this has surfaced, I have received countless emails. And if I could just have a minute, I've been a resident at 128 Southwest First Avenue. This is somebody who sent this to me, and I can provide copies of everything. We purchased the property based on the exciting plans for the downtown redevelopment, yet here we are years later, and we are still with open spaces of land and no development to finish the downtown. Another one, as a full-time resident of the city of Boynton Beach, I ask you and your commission to approve the Town Square project. The property has been vacant for far too long, and the city is in need of revitalization. Another one, I'm asking you to carefully consider to approve Times Square project for the downtown. As a local business owner, it's imperative that we grow and not be left behind. I could read these all day, and yeah, we did get a handful of the negatives, and you're all sitting in this room, so we are taking that into consideration as well. I do agree with you, Mr. Singer, that I think that you are being punished for the mistakes of the prior commission, and I do apologize on that, but I think that whatever way the board goes, I think it does have to be fact-based. And I think that people are not considering that we have looked at these blighted lots for a very long time. And again, had I been on the commission prior, I too would have tried to fight that density. But we're not there right now. And so we are taking a big risk of sitting here and looking at these empty lots for another 10 years or longer. And I think that if anything, I would like to take public comment if that's okay, but I also would like to possibly postpone this and see if we do get more community feedback, because I think that it is a very isolated group of people and when I started getting so many phone calls on my city phone and emails from business owners and residents all over this neighborhood and even out west. At one of these, there's a neighborhood that has put, 15 people on a petition. So there are a lot of efforts going around in this city. Obviously we have the negatives and we have the positives, and I think that we need to have a little bit of time to take all these people into consideration. People don't come to these meetings, they don't have time, they have family, they have work. So whichever way that it is decided, I think that there is some more due diligence that needs to be done, but I don't want these people that have been contacting for days and days and days to the city and to the staff to just not be acknowledged that their voice is also heard. So you wanted to have something else to say?
I think that's very fair.
Okay.
Also want to point out that the TIF payments are done from the CRA budget annually, right, from everyone that we do award TIF. And you could allocate those funds in theory, with all due respect, Commissioner Kelly, to increasing the neighborhood officer program and to improving infrastructure within the CRA district. So there's an argument to be made that yes, you could increase services, you could improve infrastructure if you don't have that $3.5 million TIF payment, right? Which is what we're actually already paying for. We're in year 6 for the Town Square Master Plan. So we're already paying TIF for the sins of the past, right? And so I am not opposed to tabling this item, seeing what else we can do. Again, you know, Rob, you fly down here, you know, it's nothing against you personally or the project. It's just, this is a lot of money. This is a big deal. The markets are uncertain, and it could be in your favor, right? So maybe waiting helps you with the lending if the rates decrease. And so I'm not opposed to postponing this, hearing what the public has to say, and maybe renegotiating what this is. Again, as it is before me, I cannot move forward. I do like the idea. I think it's a little bit out of reach about redrawing the plan and what we want to see. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you can do that after buying a $44 million piece of land. The numbers are the numbers. I understand the economics of it. But I am willing to work with this agreement as it is before me. But again, I am not going to budge on the parking spaces. That is not a conversation. That's what was given in exchange for the rezoning. But I agree with you, Mayor. I'm more than happy to postpone this item after public comment and see what else we can do. It's not a definitive no for me, but it is as it sits in front of me.
And things I would also like to see, I'm sorry, things I also would like to see, because we do live in the downtown, and, you know, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we made was not keeping a police station downtown. So that's something that I would also like to see to be discussed, if that's something that we can bring down to the downtown, a substation. But just from the feedback from many constituents and many businesses, I think that sometimes when you have people that want no development, they're never going to be happy. And I'm hoping that we can put that mindset aside and collectively come together as a board and ask for more public input from people, and take that into consideration instead of a small group of people dictating
And if I could
everything.
say, like in West Palm Beach, we didn't rezone anything. There was no rezoning, and I want that word is not a word. We had no variances. There was no rezoning. We literally used the code as it is. There was nothing. But in West Palm Beach, for example, there we were taking at Casamara, we had a 10-acre lot next to, you know, El Cid and these neighborhoods, and there was community concern. And all of the same concerns, and we see this, and it's completely well-founded. In that case, if you go to West Palm Beach, what you'll see is that the community has embraced Casamara. As you can hear from tenants, the retail is thriving. There's it activated a whole section of West Palm that wasn't activated. And everyone there is thrilled about it, and we are win-win-win developers. We're community, the government, and the developer. Everybody has to win. And we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't have put all the millions of dollars that we have into this if we didn't think that what we have here is going to be win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Board Member Kelly first.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. You know, some of the things, and I'll bring it up now just so that we can have it for further discussion. I mean, it is a lot of money, but I do support it because I know what the purpose is. And it's not, it's an incentive, and it's an incentive that we, the city of Boynton Beach, is very lucky to have an opportunity to have. A lot of cities don't have this opportunity to assist developers in improving the area. One of the things that you and I talked about, and I want to touch on these because I think I want to make sure they don't get lost in conversations. You know, one of the issues that has come up many times at commission meetings, at community meetings, is that when the developers come in, all of them graciously agree to hire local, and they do the bare minimum, and then they don't end up hiring local. And I've heard lots of complaints from residents who didn't ever get a job out of any of these developments. And so I really want to know from you if what your willingness is to sponsor an apprenticeship program on this development for our young people to have an opportunity, because I know that there are everyday jobs, there are flagman jobs, there's cleanup jobs, there's all these jobs, but the young people in our community are looking for careers and jobs. And I think that if we can find a way to partner with the community and with the city in a way that would provide apprenticeship jobs with your subcontractors, with your GC, I think that'll go a long way for the residents here, that you are investing in the community. And I know that, I appreciate your willingness to donate to our historic preservation of the downtown. I know it comes across as though you're buying TIF, but I know you want to come, but you want to come. And in my conversations with you, you are investing in the city and you want what's best for the city. And that's every part of it, the historic part of it, the job part of it. And so I don't want to get lost in you're trying to buy TIF. And you don't need to comment on it.
But with respect to apprenticeship and working with the community during construction, I mean, obviously.
But they all come and say that,
No.
Rob.
But, well,
so I totally understand. I get it.
We can sit down and hash out what that program looks like.
Right.
But what flagmen and this and that is one thing, but the engineering aspects of it, the construction aspects of it, we can work out a program that is great. And I fully support that. Time Equities has all kinds of internship programs, all kinds of community outreach, all kinds of green initiatives where we want to engage with the community. And the construction aspect is short, I mean, relatively speaking, but what really matters is sorry to keep pounding on it, but it's when we're done, it's the thousands of people spending their money is what generates the permanent jobs. And that's the goal. That's what drives the whole thing. That's where you get the downtown, the destination commercial. And by the way, we've designed our commercial to be destination commercial along Boynton Beach Boulevard. But all of this community development, whether it's in Delray, West Palm, Boca, it all requires people spending money.
Right.
And
So I'm sorry, Rob, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to get through I have a couple of other things really quick. I want you to know what my requests are, and then we can go and talk about it off the record. It's fine. I just want you to know. One of the other things, and we did talk about this, was if you would commit to some of your commercial space. One of the biggest issues, or one of many big issues that we have downtown is workspace and office space. And what has become popular is this concept of WeWork or open workspace. And I want to know, if you'll commit some of the commercial space to that type of business, because it's something that I feel like the residents of the properties would utilize, but also residents in the area would utilize as well. Some of our people who live in smaller homes might like to, that work from home might like to have a workspace. And I think, so I want to know your feedback on that. And we did briefly talk about that. So, and also the reduced commercial space. I would like to see that boosted up just a little bit. I know you're trying to, run a business and have commercial space, but I think in our downtown area where we're really trying to boost, the economy commercially, I think any incentive or anything that you can do, and of course the CRA also has the funding to do those grant programs as well. So also don't want to lose sight of what the CRA is able to offer our small businesses as well. But if there's any way that can be boosted or improved, if you're willing to, I think that would go a long way as well on the commercial aspect. And then one other thing I know you're donating to the workforce housing. On a different hat, when we, the city commission spoke about workforce housing fund, and we were talking about things that we could use that funding for. I wanted to see if you would commit to advancing both, because you have it broken down into both phases, but I think that it would benefit us to know that in phase one, we would have that bucket of workforce housing fund available to us to go on to do other projects that we have spoken about in the city commission. I won't go into that because it's a different hat. And then the other thing that we've heard, and I've heard comments and I've spoken to some residents about, is their concerns with it just being white. And I know we've spoken about it. But there are some kind of artist wall spaces in some of the alcoves, and this is something you and I didn't talk about, so I'm gonna put you on a little bit on the spot. But if you would commit to, in those blank wall spaces, in those alcoves, to committing to using a local artist to do a Boynton Beach theme that would be approved by the CRA board, as opposed to it just being some little decorative piece, but to really put some effort into to incorporating Boynton Beach into those art features, I think would be good to me. So I know these are like little itty bitty things in the grand scheme of it, but those are some of the things that I have thought about that really I think would enhance this project for me, and I think also for the residents to just feel a little bit more at ease. But at the end of the day, the purpose of this TIF money is to do just what you're asking us to do, and it's to incentivize growth in our downtown. And I think we'd be remiss if we let this sit for another 5 or 10 years until we see if the market settles. I know one of the things that you did agree to at the last meeting, and I don't know if Board Member Turkin was still online when you were talking about that, but that we would be able to reevaluate the phase 2 TIF request and have a new evaluation done. And so if the market did settle, and you didn't have as much gap on the phase 2, that would be adjusted down. It would never be adjusted up, but it could be adjusted down if the market did improve to our benefit. So those are just some things that I
That
wanted
one
to
for
remind.
sure, we have it,
that is in
we
the
have it
agreement.
baked into the contract.
Right. Right.
You control the entire thing. We don't want TIF if we don't need TIF.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right. And
If we don't need it,
right.
we don't want it, we won't use it. And you control, but the important thing, given where the legislation is, was to approve it as a project now so that it's approved. And then in the future, when we go to build it, you do a reevaluation of it. It might go away completely. But all of the things you said, we've written down, and they're all reasonable and smart.
One thing when when we did our first meeting, and obviously I'd asked to get more information on this, is, I've heard time and time again from some people in this room, and obviously some people that don't want development or want this development. It's time that we ask the developers to give us something back, that we've been giving it away. And I thank you for making some of these adjustments to try to save some of our historic stuff, or with more of the workforce. I just think that we definitely have to really think this through, because there are a large number of people that moved into the east from 2020 to 2025. And I could read email after email. We want a vibrant, thriving, active downtown, and that is not something we have now. So I think if we keep circling back to the density and the height, that's not the decision that we're making. Those decisions were already made, and if we keep trying to hold out and beat up any developer that is going to come down here, is not going to be able to build 4 stories or 3 stories. It's not going to be economically viable. So when people say, well, I'd rather have nothing at all, that's, we've had crime in this area. We've had blight in this area. We have issues on the north end when people are playing at the park, at the playground. There's been some complaints there because of what happens on the north lot at this time. So I do think that we all need to reach out to our constituents, and especially the ones that are initially affected by this area. And I think all of Boynton can benefit. But when we do revisit this, if we ever do with the mall, we also have to be considerate of the people that live out there. And that's what we need to do here too. Board Member Hay.
I just want to make a few comments. Rob, I think you see that we all are trying to come up with the best deal that we can for you and for us as a city. You know, for me, I'm still a little bit paranoid about what has happened to us in the past, and we just made a bad deal. But I've received emails in support. Most of them have been in support. There's been a few negative, but the majority of them have been in support of this project because as we look at it, I mean, we have to really consider that 991 and the 1224. We could end up not being able to develop this for decades based on that. And the way I look at it right now, somewhere down the line, we're going to have to bite the bullet. Not we up here, but we as a city screwed up on that last project, okay? And that's water over the dam. That train has already left the station. But I just feel that we're going to have to do a little more give and take here on this because it is a huge project, one of, if not the largest project we've done in Boynton. And so I think you can understand that we want to get it done, but by the same token, we want to be incentivized in some kind of way from what you might have to offer us. I mean, you know, we're going to go with the local hiring where we can if they qualify. We want you to do that. We want you. I think it was brought up about the apprentice program and all these kinds of things. These are the type of things we want you to consider along with our staff to see can we work something else that's going to be acceptable to all of us. Because right now, as a city, we just lost our shirt. And we, like I said before, and I said to the other developer, you know, you guys are the expert. You're professionals at what you do. And you talk a good story. I'm not saying, not anything against you, Rob, but we've gone through this before where they give us the dog and pony show, and at the end, you know, the curtain drops and we have nothing. So I don't want to go through that again, you know. So I want to hear what the public has to say. Okay, I want to hear more than this. This is not a good sampling of the 82,000 people that we have in Boynton Beach. I think we need to have a lot more input than what we have here, and that we do need to talk. And just understand, we really do want to complete this project. I'm tired of looking at the dirt and sand over there just like everybody else, okay? So I want to hear what the public has to say.
We appreciate that, and we'll let the public speak. We want to deliver. We can deliver. We need this. We have guardrails, and we are part of, we're you. We're here.
All right, just a quick last thing.
Please.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the comments from my colleagues, you know, with different viewpoints as well. We all want a project in our downtown, you know, and it's not your fault what happened with JKM. Unfortunately, you had to take the aftermath of it. But unfortunately, we also are very PTSD with everything that happened, and it's really difficult to trust once, and because it's the same exact project, it's a difficult thing to sell also to the public. I can say that yes, the project has in fact been approved, and I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. At the same time, we have the opportunity to provide tax incremental funding if the board desires to do so. But we're not required to do that. We don't have to do that.
Of course.
In exchange, if we wanted to move forward in that direction, which, you know, I would be okay with moving in that direction if it made sense with some changes. But I do not believe, and I can even ask our attorney, like, we can ask for stuff, And even though the site plan has already been approved, there's no way that you're gonna tell me now that we're not able to make any changes if it ends up benefiting you in the long term with making the project possible. And if those changes happen to be maybe more setbacks, maybe, I don't wanna, it's not my call to say what potential amendments we can make to the project, but I would definitely defer to the district commissioner and kind of like his views and his community's views with that. But I do not believe that it's too late, you know, if we're saying like, if it's a yes or no of getting tax incremental funding, and if, you know, many of us before have stated that we're not, you know, we've made some public statements before, like, let's make sure that we follow through with what we've been promising, you know, people as well recently. So I would say that.
Can I say that we can't read?
Just to finish. I believe, and I know for a fact that it would be possible for us to make changes. And if those changes were made, you know, working with the community, it doesn't have to take 2 years to make a change. I mean, it could take a few months and we could work together. And as we know, I mean, the statute changes in July. We still have until October for it to take effect. So I do think that there is opportunity for us to work together. And again, I would defer to the district commissioner, not to myself, with what they want to see in their district. But it's something that affects the city as a whole as well. So that's my 2 cents. You know, I would support making some amendments to the building in itself. It doesn't have to be humongous changes. It doesn't have to be a complete revamp. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying small changes that will make it more palatable for our community and will make it more of a project that the community can embrace. And then we would, you know, in exchange with a better project, provide tax incremental funding, which would then make the project viable, you know, for it to happen. That's it. I'll leave it for you now.
Thank you.
One moment.
There's nothing more I'd like to see than this project change. And if I had a magic wand, I would do that. But I'm a realist, and I understand the economics of this project. The time to change the site plan and everything, that was 2 years ago when I begged everyone not to go forward. That's passed. And so now we're in the position to where this is what, because let's be realistic. If we wanted changes, we do workshops, we bring in the community, they bounce the site plan, they go back to the city, city's got all this permits, you know what I mean? It's gonna cost them more money, then they're gonna ask for more TIF. And then I understand the economics of it, right? What I'm not okay with is the $35 million that's sitting in front of us, right? I think there's a happy median. I don't know what that looks like. I understand it from your perspective, and I get that. And, you know, would it be safe to say that the longer this project takes, the more it's costing time equities?
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum.
So you need to build?
No, look, we'd like to build, but it has to be economic. It's the 35 million relates to 900 units. It's proportionate with the other TIFs.
But the public benefit is not proportionate.
But it's a little different because this is a public-private partnership where we agreed to the public benefits up front, and because they were baked into the master plan. It was a part of the master plan that we came into. I mean, the parking, everything about the master plan. So we said, look, we will take on those obligations that the city set up for itself. We're going to take those on, and we're going to do everything we can to try to get this built. Now we're coming in saying, now because the market has changed, there's a gap. Your consultant determined the 35 million. If 32, but like we can run whatever numbers we want. But again, it's math, and in order to clear a certain hurdle, we have to clear it. The numbers are big because the numbers are big.
Tim, when was that report done? Was it Fishkind?
It was Abramson.
Barry Abramson had done that report. I don't know the exact.
Finished it in December. And now things have gotten worse.
Right, and I would bet that I would bet the rates are going to go down. That is the intention. I would bet the
Well, no,
rates are
it's-
going to go down.
It's not
I
about
think-
betting, they're not down.
There's no
And in
guarantee
fact,
on
the
that.
cost, and
There is no guarantee, but
the
again,
costs have gone up now. With tariffs,
what
I'd
the
like to hear
construction
from the
costs,
public.
but the lending costs will go down.
yeah, but it's all, it's
But
just
that's
different
what I'm saying.
levers.
Exactly. You're proving my
Okay.
point.
I think
And
we
so-
should move this to public
So let
comment.
me just make my suggestion. I'm going to ask that we listen to the public, and then we allow everyone to provide what concessions they want to see, right? And then we appoint someone on this dais to negotiate with Rob. I would like to. This is my district, and I want to negotiate with him. I think that's fair, and we continue this conversation going.
I think we need to hear from the public about
I
what
wanna
else,
hear from the
what they
public.
want.
Yeah.
I don't want someone up here speaking for me.
Agree.
Okay.
And I
speak-
also live
I
in this
speak for
district.
myself.
I'm getting a lot of, you know,
that's what I
when
said,
there was an
let the
article that
public
came
speak.
out and my name was in there, and so I'm the one getting, and I've sent them to the city to forward to all of, everyone else up here. But I think we need to, one, talk to the public and see what they're feeling about it, because again, it's a small portion of people that show here every time, and it's time that we start listening to what people want and need.
And on Facebook Raw, everyone's complaining about the high density in apartments. I mean, there's hundreds of comments. So the argument of what the people want, go on social media. People don't like that. But again, we have to move forward. There needs to be a happy median. I don't think it's $35 million. That's all I'm saying. Continue, let's keep the conversation.
Board Chair, procedurally, if you would not mind, just in terms of public comment, if public comment has already been provided by a
Yes.
particular member of the public at an earlier provision, they are not entitled to republic comment. It's at your option.
Yes.
Just so, again, if you've already provided comment on this particular item, even if it was done earlier in the meeting, you're not guaranteed to be, get an additional 3 minutes. And
I just want to make one sentence, 30 seconds, okay. And thank you for the comments that have been made earlier. The reason why this project was approved as is, first of all, is property rights, and second of all, it was to settle the lawsuit with the land that was given away for $10. So it was either that or nothing, and that's kind of where we were with that. So it's not like we really had a choice based on lawsuits and things of that nature.
I'd like to say one thing too. When that former administration did vote on this, you know, we're punishing anyone coming forward, and we're, you know, arguing amongst ourselves about it. But at the end of the day, you had a lawyer on the commission, and you had a lawyer at City Hall, and, you know, Real Estate 101 is a reversion clause. So
Yep.
I think no matter who is coming to Boynton and trying to do business, we should stop throwing that up in new developers' faces and new
Exactly.
people's faces. We have to move on. Those things need to be thoroughly investigated and find out really how that happened when it becomes to $46 million. But it is not our fault that that happened, and it is our fault. It would be our fault moving forward in due diligence, but I think that anybody, that, you know, we have 10,000 people that have real estate licenses, and that's on the test.
We gotta
reversion
move
clause.
on.
So, yeah, we definitely need to move on, and we need to stop throwing it up in everyone's faces that we did this, we did this, we did this. We are here now, and it's time that we start moving forward and talking to the constituent base about what they want, and also the people that invested in businesses in this community, whether that's pro or con, we don't know that yet. So are we ready to open up to public comment?
I am. Yes.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. I'm going to bring up something that no one talks about. We're talking about money, buildings, this, and the other. Are you not understanding there's going to be a flood of people living, coming over the bridges, which you can't get over even now to get home at rush hour traffic? Many of you don't live here. I do. I live right up the street. When you say downtown, I think of Ocean Avenue. We're talking about a side next to City Hall. How is that a courier to bring people to go shopping? It doesn't. It's behind a building that you have to come down Seacrest, which next to its homes. It's not conducive in this territory. I would love to see something like he wants at the mall. That's where something like that goes. Over here, we are a smaller community. I live down the street. I cannot, the buildings, I do not want to move. I moved out of Miami, Florida. I don't want to be New York. And that's what I see, and that's what I see happening. Thousands and thousands of people. Sir, I lived here, moved here from Miami, so I didn't have to live amongst everything. I love growth. I love excitement. I love things to do, but we must do it responsibly. Because if we're just going to throw stuff up, just to throw a whole bunch of people there, the traffic alone is insane. I can't even get out of my house sometimes because Boynton Beach Boulevard is just jam-packed with cars. That's the logistics. That's just the getting real about the real living right here. Many people that you might be talking to live out west. Sure, they don't care. It's not in their community. Their community is not this small. As I said, we only have Seacrest to Federal Highway. That's it for downtown. Now we're building something on the side and calling that downtown. People don't look at that as downtown. They look at the main street as downtown. This is behind a building that you don't know unless you're specifically going to a specific destination. This is the real deal. And we're having how many? 900 people times 3 or 4 people or 2 people. That's that many people running around this little city. We are not New York. We don't have the space. But I love having wonderful, beautiful things, conducive, loving to come down and walk, spend the day doing all kinds of, you can do 2, 3 stories. I don't care. That fits. But for what we want, they want to do right here, and blocking my ocean air, because I live like right up the street, and having all these people running around like this is like the city, like New York, is insane, or Miami. And I know that you've all seen it lately, and it's not about dollars. It's about living a quality life. We don't have the water source. We don't have the pipes. We don't have for the infrastructure. This is insane. And sir, you do have an option. You can sell that property.
Please direct
and
to
you
the-
can make lots
please
of
direct
money.
to the board, Cindy.
Okay, but you
Sorry.
can sell the property. It's not like it's a dead-end deal, and they can make probably even more profit off of it and be better. And then I'd rather see something done correctly and that's right and conducive than to do something just because it's not something that you want, because it's something you want there. We have to. You have to. It's time to put a stop and do. And I said we already have a charrette. They don't even have to redo the plan. But this is on the side. This is not downtown Boynton Beach. That's on the side street of Seacrest. Let's be honest. Let's be real for the people that live here.
Next, please.
Thank you, Mike McCray. First of all, I've been in Boynton for 72 years. I was here when the CRA was started. The Town Square project, which you all are talking about, was not what was presented to us before Kurt Bresner. We had plans upstairs in City Hall when it set out over on Boynton Beach Boulevard. Before you all start talking about what we can and cannot have, you need to learn the history of Boynton. Learn why the CRA was established. You're talking about down here, not being developed. MLK Boulevard stayed undeveloped for about 35 years before anybody put anything over it. Why? Because they was haggard and saying, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. Don't keep pointing blame. Yeah, you paid a lot of money for a lot of projects. I was here when the Town Square project came before us. I voted for it. It wasn't a reverter clause. But what I did tell them was, I said, you know what? I don't feel right about this project, and it's not going to make it during my lifetime. I'm getting older, and if you all keep sitting up there and haggling and saying about this, that, and the other, it won't be done during your lifetime. You got somebody at the plate who want to develop, let them develop Boynton. We have no destination. We said that we want to make this to be Boynton downtown destination. We need you all to go ahead and say, let's approve the project. It's not your money, the TIP money that you all are bickering about. It's taxpayers' money. You all don't pay taxes on it as much as anybody else. I'm just saying, we all got a part of this here. I'm in favor of you all moving this project forward. It has set too long. We don't even have weeds growing now. We have trees growing. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, good evening. Taylor Ritchie. I'm the owner of Alchemy Salon in East Boynton. I've owned my business here in Boynton for 8 years. I've been a resident of Boynton Beach since 2010. I, for the longest time, have only known this for downtown Boynton. I absolutely love owning a business here in Boynton, specifically because of the city, the CRA, the support that we get from you guys is unmatched. This has to go through. We are starving for commercial retail space, and as a business owner, it's my responsibility to my employees and to my clients to have a 10-year plan. I feel if this doesn't get pushed through now, we will not have a 10-year plan in Boynton Beach. I don't want to remove my business from Boynton Beach because I love this city so much. But it's my responsibility to my employees to give them something that they can grow into. We have so much of our business as walking business already where we're located in Ocean Plaza. This will only help with that. I'm here representing all of my employees. I'm here representing the thousands of clients that we service. And I am here to really urge you guys to please push this through, because if we don't do this now, and all we have is now, we can't go back to the past. I understand everything that we've gone through. We only have now. This has to start soon so that we can plan into this. So thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, please.
Yes, I'm Mark Harry George. I feel that we need to move forward, but I have a problem with the number. I think it's repugnant. You talked about $2 million a year. 10 years, that works out to 20 million, not 35 million. I have concerns that you need to have a community benefit agreement. So you guarantee local hires in writing, and you verify it with the payroll tax receipts. It's not difficult, it's been done before. I think that, you know, you're obligated to pay the impact fees. That's a separate issue from TIF. We need to move forward, but not at 35 million. That's ridiculous. And 20 million is livable, barely. But you have to have the community benefit agreement in there. You have to have the public art element in there. You have to do things the right way. And the only way you get that done is to have an agreement in writing tied in with the TIF. So you do both together. And you bind them to that. And there's penalties, not just a reverter, but there's other penalties if he doesn't meet those obligations. If you don't meet the goal on the local hires, a certain percentage has to be local hires. If you don't hit that percentage, then you're penalized monetarily. Those are the things you write into those community benefits agreements. As far as one person negotiating on behalf of the commission, I'm against that. You vote on things as a body, not as an individual. One person to speak on behalf, you have an executive director to negotiate on those things. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Excuse me, Linda Morton. Again, I live in this downtown area and I have a business here. And I would just like to say one of the things that I was reading about the TIF is that it's for distressed and underdeveloped properties where development would not occur. This property is going to be developed. If it's not this developer, somebody's going to snag this property very quickly without giving $35 million away. Thank you.
Hi, Anthony Barber. Obviously, I live in the neighborhood. I support getting the development done. I think we need it. But I want to commend all of you for not slamming the door. I understand that it has a lot of hair on it. It smells. But this is where we are. And so I just encourage you to work together and figure out a plan with the developer. To think that somebody's going to come and pay them more than $44 million in this environment is, I think they would wish that, but as somebody that has some experience in that area, it's just not going to happen. So I think we have somebody that seems to have I don't know, you know, I know the company by reputation. They have a good reputation. We need to figure something out, and I just commend you and encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, please.
Shivering, it's so cold
It's so
in here.
cold in here. I agree. We have to do something about this.
Allison Sullivan, I'm a local realtor, longtime resident of East Boynton since 2006. I'm actually one of the top 10 realtors in the 2 East Delray zip codes and 33435, which is where I moved in 2006. Because Delray is so expensive and so desirable, oftentimes I try to bring them up to Boynton Beach. It's very hard to get people to buy real estate in Boynton Beach, but hard to get builders to buy land because we have a blighted downtown. I think by not moving forward with this project, I think that you're going 10 steps backwards for Boynton Beach. I'm hearing all these people talking about the traffic and the density, and it sounds like it's very black and white. It's either the TIF money or nothing, right? So I don't know if there is a negotiation. It sounds like going back to the drawing board and rebuilding. I mean, I'm 100% on board with Commissioner Turkin that if we can renegotiate and lessen the amount of TIF money, but it doesn't sound like that's an option. It sounds like it's black and white. It's either you do it or you don't. So I would urge the commission to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Riddy. I lived in District 3 for 50 years. I attended all the charrettes, all of the downtown, town square ideas and everything. When Mr. Singer came to town with his conceptualization of the buildings, it was already drawn and on paper. The people were not given an opportunity to provide input. So it kind of felt like a like it or lump it kind of situation. Those of us that realize that the ship has sailed already as far as stopping this overdevelopment, we're never going to be able to stop it. Every square inch of property has already been approved. The developers have come to town like vultures and taken advantage of every square inch of our city. Right now, tonight, the last lady probably said it most succinctly, that the 95% is the only thing that's negotiable at this point. You know, it's up to the 5 of you to decide whether you want to like it or lump it. Go for 75%. I mean, the excuse that's being thrown out that, oh, it's commensurate with what you've given other projects. No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. If he needs 75%, that might be swallowable, but 95% for 18 years, that's a pretty big hit to the bottom line. So we are definitely in a like it or lump it situation.
Thank you. Next, please. It's so cold, I can't take it.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lauren Gable. I am a resident in Boynton Beach. I bought a home for my family here a handful of years ago and have since bought an investment property with the idea of making Boynton Beach the best city that it can possibly be. And there's numerous things that are going to go into that. I just wanted to give support to Time Equities. As a developer myself, I know how hard it is to develop today. And in a city with the blight in the downtown that we have today, it makes it even harder. Just to clear up, a few items that the public has spoken on, unfortunately, yes, I am also very cold. But the city, or the project has been approved. The zoning is part of the property owner's property rights. It's black and white code. It's been approved. There's nothing we can do about the height or the density. And then as it relates to the TIF and taking away the tax dollars or, the taxpayers' money, the money that is given back to the project is in the form of money that they are paying and creating for the city. So not only does it not take from the taxpayer dollars, it actually adds revenue to the city, both in the form of the taxes that they're paying as well as the revenue that's coming from the businesses and from the residents living into the area. Rising interest rates, higher return thresholds from both lenders and equity partners make it very difficult to develop today. And so I commend Time Equities, who has an amazing reputation in quality design behind what they build, to come into a city like Boynton and really put their name behind it and work to increase Boynton to be the best city that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Oh, my name is Flynn Holland, and I've been living here for 30 years. And the blighted area, it was not blighted until it was left empty and not taken care of. And the reality is when he came in and proposed it, it was supposed to happen right away. It was told that they had all the money and everything was set. I know that the economy has gone bad, but to take taxes away for this project and give a little bit back, we need more. I feel like they're big boxes. I feel like the density of the residents that we're going to have, now I know it's already been approved, but where are the animals going to go and walk? There's no park, there's no vegetation. This is right up to the edge. The commercial property on Boynton Beach Boulevard is right on the cement walkway. Are we going to have another thing like we do on Ocean where it will take up what sidewalk there is with tables and stuff? We see there's a lot of empty commercial space here. And if the commercial space was facing the downtown Ocean area, it would be much more responsive to the community at large. Putting it on Boynton Beach Boulevard, you're going to have to walk around to get to it. I think that those buildings, that space is going to be empty for a long period of time. I see that change can be made. I think $35 million over the course of time, the amount of years it's going to take to make the money back is going, CRA is going to sunset before that happens. He's talking about the north side not being accomplished until 2036. So we're still going to have blight. We're going to have construction and blight and density. And the assessed would be the assessed whether he got the 35 million or not. And I feel like it's the same, it's not the same as JMK, but it's the all or nothing deal, which is what JMK did, and that's how we got into the problem that we had the first time. So if he's not able to build without that money, well, then maybe he's not able to build. You know, are we going to end up with all of this for naught? It just feels deja vu. So I do like to talk to everybody. I went back in the history, 2014 is when we started talking about the city and all of the things that the people came with the charrette that Barbara was talking about was about trees and people walking through. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
We do have online public comment, so for this item. So we have Jake Harrington. If Jake Harrington could go online and he can state his name for the record. IT.
Hello, Jake Harrington, 450 North Federal Highway. That's 3.5 blocks from this project. Boynton Beach has been trying to build a downtown since the early 1990s. The city is struggles to attract high-quality developers. It's a miracle that a 5-star firm like Time Equities is willing to rescue this mess of a project. Tax incremental financing structures are a major reason that CRAs exist. There's no property tax to rebate if you don't let builders build. Yes, it's a lot of money because it's a lot of project. But let's stop pretending that an 8-story building turns us into Miami or New York City. I urge this new CRA board to finally get out of your own way, say no to empty lots and yes to progress. Again, Boynton has been trying to build a downtown since the early 1990s. Delays kill deals. Don't be the Boynton Beach board that bullies a good builder away. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Angela Troyanowski. IT, if you could, yep.
Hi, yes, Angela Troyanowski here. I'm a resident in Boynton Beach. And I want to start by thanking Commissioner Turkin, Cruz, and Kelly for going through the history and making sure that everyone understood how we got to where we are. And I understand that, and I understand what a lot of you are saying. There's a lot that we can't change, including the past, and including the property rights and the zoning and all of and the density. So we're at a unique point here where they're asking, TEI is asking for this TIF funding, and we have the opportunity to come back and negotiate perhaps some other things that we want to see. So thank you, Mayor Shelton, for delaying this vote. so that we can perhaps get more into this deal. So if it is all or nothing, if it is either we approve this TIF funding or we don't do the project, well, I'm of the belief that there's more than one way to solve a problem. So one of the examples, and a lot of the community has just given a lot of things that they would like to see put into the deal, and Commissioner Kelly also went through a nice laundry list. But one of the things right now that in the CRA budget is $2 million for a grocery store. There's only 23,000 square feet of retail on this project. I would like to see more commitment of what that retail is going to look like. If this project is going to create a vibrant downtown, one of those items is going to be the retail. Is there any possibility of incorporating grocery into this project? What will that retail space look like? So I think that as we renegotiate putting this $35 million of TIF funding into this project, we have the opportunity to ask for more as a community, and get this land developed in a way that makes Boynton a vibrant downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appointed her to the CRA board.
Okay, next we have Susan Geary.
Hi, I'm Susan Geary. I live at 2556 Southwest 11th Court in Boynton Beach. I applaud this entire commission for taking on the problems of the past. You are starting to handle this well. I give you every single bit of kudos for taking on something from yesterday and trying to make it go forward. And I agree, we have to go forward. I'm a little bit taken aback with the tax issue, only because I think that you've got three major complaints. One is the density and the height. The other, we're hearing about what they want for commercial space and so on. I think we've seen projects redesigned, and Del Rey is probably our best way to look at projects that have been redesigned to fit so the community can make them work. I think all of your ideas are really good, and I give you and I applaud you thank you for giving time to table this, to listen to the rest of the community, just for a very short period of time, even only a month, you know. I realize that, yes, the economy is shaky right now, but I'm telling you what, I know Goldman Sachs, I don't think they're that concerned about the TIF. So I can tell you, I think that your time is well spent doing a little more speaking with your community and figuring out what will work for everybody. And I really do applaud all the people that have made comments this evening, because they've all been very fascinating and interesting. It's changed my viewpoint quite a bit. I'm for the project. I think that there can be some limitations to it or improvements maybe. That's just my thoughts. But thank you for listening to me. I appreciate it. And thank you again for at least trying to work this out.
Thank you very much. Okay. So public comment is now closed. Would any of my colleagues like more discussion or possibly make a motion to table?
No, I just want to say for the record, the previous commission did appoint that current mayor to negotiate on behalf of the commission multiple times. So that's why I brought that up. And that actually, one of those times is when in the litigation with JKM. No, I think, listen, we have time. We don't need to do this right now. I think one of my favorite points I've heard from public comment was the grocery store and incentivizing to get that done. Because what that does is free up that $2 million line item for the CRA budget that we can utilize for whatever we decide. So I would incorporate that in negotiations. And I think the big thing here from what I've heard the public is timeline, right? And so I'd like to know too, I know staff wants to see the north side built first. I don't know if that's feasible or enough. Not CRA staff, city staff. I don't know, because of the parking, it would be easier, I guess, for the north side to be done. I don't know if that's,
The master plan specifically requires the southern parcel to be built first.
so you would need an amendment in order to.
They would need to amend the whole master plan and
Yeah.
everything like that. But we were agnostic about that. We wanted to do what you wanted to do, and we
Right.
put the retail where, and designed the retail exactly where code and everyone wanted it. The only other thing I would say is, the really good point, really important concern is, who are gonna be these retailers? What if they're terrible? What if, whatever? And with developers, you gotta, it's like, show me what you did. And I could point you all over the country, but if you go to Casamara and you look at the 8 stores that we built there, you'll see only entrepreneurs. We could have had Starbucks, we could have had whoever we wanted. Justin Olive from Common Grounds, Guacago, go down the line, health, beauty, food, tacos. We created, not because the city demanded it, because we felt an obligation to that community to represent. So as we're all thinking about this, we can talk about use groups that are approvable, we can talk about a million things. But it's in our interest, and it's our commitment to deliver a retail environment. 23,000 feet is a lot of retail. And by the way, to the comment about the southern portion, the city and everyone wanted two stores on the southern building in the north corners, northeast, north. That's what they wanted. And in fact, the staff wasn't even allowed, but they changed it because they wanted it. So we said, okay, if you don't want stores on the southern building, that's the kind of change that could be made, or we could take those two and maybe make them, I don't know, with that kind of thing we can change. But if we try to pull apart this building that was by zoning, as Commissioner Turkin has said, we're done. We're willing to talk about anything, and we want to engage. We want to talk. I want to talk to each one of you and figure out how can we work together within what the zoning is and within what because on the one hand, the city is saying we want development. On the other hand, some people are saying we don't want development. We understand that that's a conflict, but we can deliver the retail environment, and we want to talk, and we want to keep this going. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion to table?
I was just gonna say, I know we mentioned it earlier, but I do support Commissioner Turkin working with your district to figure out because they'll live down the road, so that's up to, the board, but I mean, or you can also work with them and then bring it up to the board, however you all see fit, but just thought that I would be opposed to that.
Yeah, the chair lives in this district too, so she also, Catherine, this is a discussion item, so do we need to do anything moving forward at this point?
Well, okay, so you have several options, and I would just like to address some procedural issues. So Board Member Turkin is right. It is possible for you all to appoint a board member to engage in negotiations if you wished. However, in doing so, you do subject every negotiation to the sunshine, meaning that Board Member Turkin would have to advertise every meeting that he were to hold with the developer and invite the public, so certainly permissible, perhaps not what's being envisioned. I'm not sure one way or the other, but that's just for your consideration when making that call. Procedurally, if there's no action being taken, you don't need to do anything. You may also put it on the table to bring back next meeting, and we can take your direction in the interim. So that would be sort of the more typical way to handle it at this point, and I would recommend that you, if you're not going to vote on it, that you put it on the table and we'll take your direction.
I would like to put it on the table, my colleagues.
Let me just, excuse me. We had about 14 people to come up here this evening to speak, and 85% of them want some form of moving this project ahead, and only 15%. I think that's a good, if we were to do a citywide, I think those numbers would probably remain the same. I think my position at this point is to table this for at least one more round because of the importance of it and what we have in front of us. And I think that But I do not agree with one person up here representing the board. I don't want anyone speaking for me. I want to speak for myself. And so that's my position. I don't know what the vote is going to be, but I would like to table this and we talk one-on-one or whatever it takes. But I want to make sure I have input to it and not one person speaking for me.
Agreed.
Motion to table.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, all those in favor to table, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so now we're just moving on to new business. There is no new business to discuss. So is there anything else from my colleagues tonight, or is there further discussion, or do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
No, hold on. I
Oh,
do
hold
have
on.
something, because it
Okay,
was
okay.
brought up in public comment. And Tim, you and I spoke about this, about the CRA spearheading the Andrews House moving.
This was brought up by Board Member Cruz, I believe, at the last meeting.
And did we get, okay.
So it's, there's going to be a discussion to discuss the progress
That's going to come, okay.
in May, correct, yes.
Okay.
All right, second, the motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for those online.
Okay, have a good one. Enjoy yourself.
Board Chair,